Good morning, everyone. Let's start off this. So today we are on day 2 of this marathon, and as we discussed yesterday, first we will cover this other laws which are also carry significant marks, and then we will move back to our Companies Act, the remaining chapters. In this, the most important and highly rated, just to take you through one more time, what is the weightage of this? So, the General Classes Act itself, you will get around 10 to 12 marks. And even if you look at the past, apart from the weightage suggested, it's been real. So, if you take last couple of attempts, almost all the attempts, there are significant marks that are being asked from this General Classes Act. So therefore, let's start with this discussion on General Classes Act. This General Classes Act, it's a very old act, like we can see 1897. And the very purpose of this is, I'll just give the generic purpose and then we will get to the specific purpose and all. Since every act will be using certain words which are common, and every word can be defined in every act. So if they start defining every word like month and year and all this, then every act is going to become too lengthy. So therefore, what they thought was, all the common words which are used in multiple acts, it is better to have a separate act where all these are defined. So the very purpose of this is to shorten the length of this other acts. So other than that, there is no specific purpose of this General Classes Act. That's why the title is also, it is like a general clauses. So here we will be covering basically the definitions and plus certain interpretations which needs to be made while interpreting any other laws. So therefore, if we look at the very objective of this General Classes Act, the object of the General Classes Act are two. One is to shorten the language of central acts, and the second one is to bring in uniformity in expression of the central acts. So that each, like as of now itself, you take a couple of words like related parties. It is defined in different manner in different acts. Like the related party under income tax is different, and the related party under Companies Act is different, and related party under FEMA is different. So to control all this and to avoid these kind of differences, that is where this act has been brought in. So to summarize, the two objects of this General Classes Act are to shorten the language of the Central Act and to bring in the uniformity of the expression. And then what is the purpose? Of course, object and purpose goes hand in hand. And what is the purpose? To put in one single statutes with regard to interpretation of words and legal principles which are commonly applicable for multiple acts. Then comes this application of General Classes Act. Say every act in general, earlier we used to study it is applicable for all over India except Jammu and Kashmir, and now that has been gone. Now all acts are applicable to all over India. But in that background, to which territory this General Classes Act applies, it doesn't have any territorial specifications. Because since it is supposed to work as a sub-act to all the central acts, wherever the Central Act is extended, the General Classes Act is also deemed to have been extended. So therefore, to summarize, for whom this General Classes Act is applicable and the applicability of General Classes Act, it doesn't have any territorial limits on its own, and whichever the Central Act for which you are looking at General Classes Act is applicable, then wherever the Central Act is applicable, this is also deemed to be applicable. So it doesn't have any specific territory. That is what is the applicability of it. Then moving on to it, the very important point that he is asking, questioning in every question almost on an alternate basis, is what do you mean by preamble? And what are the power of this preamble? So this may come as a definition, as a short answer, in multiple ways. This has been coming. So whenever you use this preamble basically is included in every act, and what it defines as, it will contain three things. What is the scope, what is the object, and what is the purpose of the act? These three are the ones which are contained in this preamble. And the other point that comes in is whether the preamble overrides the act. This has also been asked in MCQs, or earlier true or false. The answer is preamble does not override the provisions, and the provisions always supersede the preamble. So it is helpful, but it don't have the overriding effect. So that is what is this preamble. Now going one step backwards, let's come back again. This General Classes Act, it's a very old act, I'm repeating. It's a very old act, and therefore we are trying to discuss what is the object and the purpose. The object is twofold. One is to shorten the language of the Central Act, and second one is to bring in the uniformity and the expression of certain words in the Central Acts. And what is the purpose? All the words and interpretations that are used in multiple acts, they want to keep it in a single statute. That is what is the purpose of it. And then applicability, which territory it is applicable. On its own, it doesn't have any territorial limits. Wherever the Central Act is applicable, this also is deemed to have an application for it. That is, what is the application of General Classes Act? Now, preamble. Now you tell me, what does the preamble contain? Three things: scope, object, and purpose. So these are the ones. Now, provisions and preamble, which will override what? Provisions will override preamble. The same point in the other way, preamble does not override the provisions of it. But then, is it useful in interpretation? The answer is yes. So it is still useful because it is going to provide the scope, object, and the purpose of the act. And then we move on to this definitions one. Now, before we discuss specific definitions, the understanding and the expectation of definitions in the General Classes Act is there are certain words that are defined, but then can we apply to every Central Act? The answer is no. So that is, wherever the definitions are clearly specified in the Central Act, we go by the Central Act. And wherever the definitions are not clear in the Central Act, either not defined or not clear, then we would come back and depend on this General Classes Act. So that is the, so indirectly, where should I apply these definitions? You can apply in any Central Act, provided it doesn't have any definition. It's the word, such a word is not defined in that respective act. Then, from the exam perspective, there are a few questions, repeat questions on how do we, because if you look at the definitions, certain definitions will contain the word means, certain definitions contain the word include. Like even if you take the example of it, the second definition, I'm just keeping it to the top of it. Now the second definition contains the word include, and whereas the third one, the Central Act means. So that is what he is trying to say. Wherever these definitions are containing means and include, what does it mean? Now, this is a basic one. Hope you all are familiar. Now, whenever we use the word means, that is exhaustive. So that is, the word has been defined and you don't have any flexibility to add it. Whereas when they use the word include, it is inclusive in nature. So in the sense, it is flexible. So it is not restricted to the meaning assigned to it. You can add any other meaning that is given to it. This is what is, how do we eat? But nowadays, he is asking little extended questions. What if one definition contains both the words? So means and include. So earlier it was like means and include. Now he started asking latest questions. How do I interpret if the definition contains both the words, means and include? The logic is simple. Like in casting, you keep taking it. If they say salaries, you take it to P&L. If they say wages, you take it to trading. But in sometimes they say salaries and wages and salaries. So whatever is the first word, that is what you give the importance. If he says salaries and wages, you take it to P&L. Similarly, when he says means and include, then you give the top priority to the word means. So which means exhaustive. So that's all. So that is the simple way to remember. And very few definitions also will contain these words like to apply to and include. It's very rare. You don't find it that often. But wherever they are using these words to apply to and include, it is also exhaustive. It is extensive in nature. So these are the two additional points that we need to remember. Now let us go back. What are the two objects of General Classes Act? Shorten the language of the Central Act, provide uniformity of it. And then purpose is to put in one single statute of all the common definitions and common interpretations. Then you tell me, what are the territorial limits of General Classes Act? There are 2 points that you have to write. First is, it doesn't have any territorial limits. Then where, to whom does it apply? Wherever the Central Act applies, this also applies. Then the word preamble. Now, what are the 3 things the word preamble contains? Scope, object, and purpose. Now, preamble and provision, which will override what? provisions will override the preamble. So that point is important. But when provisions are going to override preamble, then do we still need to use this preamble for interpretation? The answer is yes, it is useful. Then the definitions. Now you tell me, if a word is defined in Central Act and it is also defined in General Classes Act, which one you will follow? Central Act you will follow. Then when do we follow this definition of General Classes Act? If the words are not defined in the Central Act, that's a simple one. Then means and include. Which is exhaustive, which is inclusive? Means is exhaustive and include is inclusive. So which is flexible, which is rigid? Means is rigid because it is complete. And which one is flexible? Include is flexible. So it is ready to include any other ones. But what if the definition contains means and include? Then we will give the effect of the means. That is, it is exhaustive. And very rarely, as I said, you may also see certain definitions where they are saying to apply to and include, then it is also extensive or it is exhaustive. Then we have similarly some common words like shall and may. It is very simple. Between shall and may, you tell me which is mandatory, which is not mandatory. Shall is mandatory, so that is what we discussed. So shall is mandatory, whereas may is a discretionary in nature. So wherever we use the word shall, it is mandatory and it is imperative. So it's like a duty, you must do it. And it imposes an obligation. So whereas the word may, it is not mandatory, but is only a directory. So therefore, it confers discretionary powers to the reader of it. This is how you distinguish between the word shall and may of it. Then we get into this definitions. In these definitions, since we are in the marathon class, I will focus on the important definitions, and otherwise the simple ones like act means an offense, civil wrong and all, I'm just going to ignore, and we will focus on the important ones. Now, let me see whether you remember. There are three words which will have the same definition. One is affidavit, oath, and swear. So there are three words, affidavit, oath, and swear, all will have the same meaning. Then what are the definition starts? It is simple. That is, anything which is, it contains basically two broad topics. Affirmation or declaration, in case of persons who are allowed to affirm or confirm, so or declare instead of swearing. And same definition you will apply for all three. But otherwise, affidavit is a written statement. So whereas swear is a oral. So other definition as per General Classes Act is same. But the general usage of this word is, when you use the word affidavit, you are not referring to oral. So you are referring to a written statement. But whenever you say swear or oath, both refers to the oral one. That's the internal difference between these two words. Then move on to Central Act, and all this are fine. And when you say central government, now you tell me, whom do we refer when we say this central government? So when we say this central government, then it depends on before commencement of the Constitution and after the Constitution. Before the Constitution, if you ask me this before Constitution, now we need not refer. But if at all there is any old case going on, and that needs to be. But the probability of that in 2026 is highly impossible, highly negligible. But still, from exam perspective, what do you mean by a central government? Before the commencement of Constitution and after the commencement of Constitution. Before the commencement of Constitution, you know that we were ruled by Governor Generals, by UK, and also same thing, Governor Generals in Council. But after this commencement of the Constitution, it means the President. So, but it's not only the President, we do have states having certain autonomous powers. So therefore, it includes President and then state governments and then union territories. So this is the definition of the central government. Then document. This is also an important one. This word document, we will cover it in our interpretation of statute. Same word will, with the same one, it will come over there. So we will cover it in that interpretation of it. Then financial year. Now you tell me, what do you mean by financial year under General Classes Act? There are two things. Otherwise, in general, what do you mean by financial year? Starts when and ends when? April to March. But though you are familiar, but since it's a marathon, you know that there is a difference in the word financial year between the Companies Act and the General Classes Act. Now, which one talks about March, 31st March? Companies Act will talk about the period ending 31st March, whereas the General Classes Act focuses on the first of it. That is, the year starts with the year commencing on 1st April. It means the same, April to March, but as a student, while writing it, you got to be sensible, because the same word is also important from Companies Act. To repeat it, the word financial year under General Classes Act will come, it refers to the year commencing on 1st April, whereas under Companies Act, it refers to the year ending on 31st March. So this is the difference between that. But what do I mean by calendar year? Jan to December. So these are the simple ones. Then good faith. This word good faith, earlier it was a repeat question, but nowadays he is started focusing on different new trend of questions, so he has ignored it. But otherwise, he can bounce back. So it is like a you can say a mine which is just waiting to blast. So this good faith, it's a common word. It's been defined in multiple acts in multiple ways. So this is the one word, like we said, related parties just now, which has been defined differently in different acts. This word good faith also has been defined in multiple acts. Every act is having its own definition of good faith. But under General Classes Act, so what do you mean by good faith is, any act which is done honestly, whether it is done negligently or not. The same good faith you will also apply in Sale of Goods Act and all these things, but that definition is different and the definition of General Classes Act is different. Under General Classes Act, it refers two things, 2 points you can subdivide. Anything done honestly, that is intentions are clear, but whether done skillfully or not, so that is a different. That is, even if there is a negligence, it can still become a good faith as long as there is an honesty in it. So the word to be focused is, it is done honestly, even if it is done negligently. So to put that differently, to call that as a good faith, do you need to exhibit the skills required and all that? Not required. So even if it is bit negligent, as long as it is honest, it is treated as a good faith. That is how this definition will go by. And this word government, this also been tested multiple times. When we say this government includes both central government as well as state government as well. That's where you see these questions of January 21, which is asked for 2 marks. That is, income tax provides that the gratuity paid by the government to its employees is fully exempt from tax, and you are required to explain the scope of the term government and clearly and clarify whether the exemption from gratuity income will be available to the state government. That's where you have to say government, the word under General Classes Act include not only central government but also state government. Therefore, wherever they use the word government, it is applicable to both the central as well as the state. Then government security is negligible. Securities by the government, that's all. Now, then this important word, immobile properties. But before I go to this immobile properties, since it's a revision, so just let's go back in a random questions. What are the 3 things preamble contains? Scope, object and purpose. Now, can we use preamble for interpretation? Yes. And provision and preamble, which will override? Provisions will override the preamble. Now, what are the 2 objects of the General Classes Act? To shorten the language of Central Act and to provide uniformity of it. Now, what is the applicability of General Classes Act? Whom does this applicable? It doesn't have any territorial limits, but then whom does it applies? Wherever Central Act applies, this also applies. Then quickly, means and include. Which is exhaustive, which is inclusive? Means is exhaustive and include is inclusive. Which is rigid and which is flexible? Means is rigid and include is flexible. But what if I use means and include? Exhaustive. So that is, we have to give the effect of the word mean. Then shall and may, which is discretionary, which is mandatory. Shall is mandatory and may is discretionary. That's all. Now, then let's come here. Immobile property. Now, whenever I say immobile property, this is the most important one, and several questions are being asked at multiple levels. We will see that questions as well on this. Now, when I say immobile property, why this point will come into trigger is, like we discussed in our regular classes, immobile property, when we say, we assume that the property is immovable. So whereby you cannot move it at all. That is what we mean by immobile property. For general understanding, that's all right. But if you are taking specific cases, the definition may become little doubtful. Like you say, when it says the ceiling fan. Now, is the ceiling fan a movable or immovable? It becomes questionable. So, to talk about like anything, you take ACs fixed onto the wall. Now, whether AC now, which is fixed onto the wall, is it movable or immovable? So, or the electric poles, which are, dug into the earth and then cemented and all that. So, those cases, this word becomes important. Now, when you say immobile property, it includes four things. That is, first is the land. So, land is an immobile one. And the second one, benefits to arise out of land. So, any benefits that are coming arise out of land, like plants and trees and etc. and all. Then the third one, things attached to the earth. So, like electric poles and all this kind of stuff, or the buildings and all this, things attached to the earth. And the fourth one, permanently fastened to anything which is attached to the earth. So, it is not attached to the earth, but it is fastened to something which is attached to the earth. Say, for example, this AC is in all this. So, AC is not attached to the earth, but AC is fastened to something, the building, which is attached to the earth. So, that way, this definition of immobile property contains four broad points. Now, since this is an important one, I expect you to participate. Now, immobile property. There are 4 points that we need to highlight. What is the first one? Land. Second one, benefits to arise out of land. Third one, things attached to earth. And fourth one, permanently fastened to something which is already attached to the earth. So these are the 4 definitions. Now, as a simple student mindset, all conditions are anyone. Anyone, because it is defined in multiple ways. So any one it is satisfies, it will become an immobile property. Now you tell me, trees and timber, we have discussed enough. So trees and timber, which is movable, which is immovable? Trees are immovable and timber is movable. Why timber has become movable? Because, and when tree was immovable, and when you cut the tree, you get the timber. So then why, how come the timber has become movable when it is coming out of tree? Because as a tree, it is something, the benefits arising out of land, that it is attached to the earth. But once that is gone, then it don't fit into any of these definitions. Therefore, it becomes this movable property. Let us look at some of the questions of the past, what he is asking. Look at the point 1. Point 2 we will cover. That is a separate aspect. Now, this is also for 4 marks, but for this point 2. Insurance policies covering immobile property have been held to be immobile property. Why he is asking is, if you say this, what is immobile property? First 3 are clear. Land and then benefits arising out of land and things attached to it, those are clear. The fourth one, permanently fastened to something which is attached to the earth. So from that background, when I say insurance policies which have taken on immobile property, will that insurance policies also will become immobile property? So this is how he is asking questions. So simply by hearting that 4 points, it will not take you anywhere. So then what you need to understand is, this is where the interpretation comes into the play. Anything not attached to the earth also will become immovable if it is fastened to something which is attached to the earth. For example, this fans and this pipes, for example, whatever the pipes that we have, this drainage pipes and all of it, they also become, they are movable. So, but these pipes and all, you moved it, you bought it from the shop and get it. But now, as of now, it is fastened to something which is attached to the earth. But whereas insurance policies, it is not fastened to something. Fastening is tying. It is not tied to any building and all that. So it's a, therefore, this insurance policies, you cannot call it as an immobile property. Just because it is taken an immobile property, it doesn't become immobile property. Then how do you define? How do you justify? That is where you have to define this, and then you have to say that since it doesn't fit into any of these 4 parameters, it cannot be called as an immobile property. That is how you have to confirm. Now, look at the another question, exam question, which is asked in April 2019. That is, A died at the age of 72, leaving behind some movable and immovable properties to be distributed between two sons, C and D. Now how he has written the will is, the movable property should go to D and immovable property should go to C. So C will take immobile property and D will take the movable property. Now he is asking, he has given 4 out of 4, which one should go to D? Indirectly he is asking, because D will get movable property, which is the movable property is what he is asking. If you look at the first one, standing crop in the field. Now you tell me, standing crop in the field, movable or immovable? Immovable. So standing crop in the field is similar to your trees. So which is the benefits arising out of land type. So that is directly a immovable property. Then the B, cut crop, movable. It is similar to your trees in timber. So that is the definition of it. So it is movable. Then tube well. That is almost like your bore well in the agricultural land. So you know what is a bore well. Say you get the pipes and you start digging into it, and then you dump one motor into it. That's all it becomes a your bore well. So everything was movable, but because it is fastened to earth now it has become immovable. So any tube well or bore wells and all that will also become immovable property. And then sandalwood tree. Tree, we know that tree is always an immovable property. So therefore, the only odd man out here is the B, cut crop. So which is movable and it should go to D. So going back to it, now you tell me, what are the 4 things that are covered under immovable property? Land, benefits to arise out of land, things attached to earth, and permanently fastened to something which is attached to earth. So any one is satisfied, then it becomes an immovable property. Then imprisonment and all you can ignore. So these are not being questioned. Oath and all we have already covered. And registered. So when you use the word registered, registered means which is registered. Then registered with whom? So that is the question. Now, that is how we have to look at it. Registered with whom? With whomever it is required as per the Act. Like say, for example, if you are buying motor vehicles, then you have to register with the T authority. If I am buying a land, then I have to register with the registration department. So likewise, whenever you are registering in accordance with the requirement of it, then it becomes registered. That's all. It's a simple, negligible, C-class type and all. Then all these are fine. We have discussed. And then writing, very rarely he is asking. Traditionally it was yes, but of late not really too frequent. When you say writing, why the need would come is, many times we see, like even when we talk about this, like say, the notice period and all that, shorter notice and all, you say that minimum 95% of the member should confirm it in writing. Likewise, many times in the Act, they say that it should have been confirmed in writing. When you say in writing, is it supposed to be in handwritten? That was the point that was required. That is where to clarify. When you say writing, it doesn't require your handwritten. Anything in visible form is what is called writing. Then how this visible form, it can come out of many things. It can come out of printing, lithography, photography. That is, even if you take a photo, so the court is going to consider that as a written document. For example, there is a crime scene, there is an accident. Now, somebody had taken a photo of the two-wheeler getting crushed under the bus. So now that photo, nobody has written any language in it. No script is involved. But nevertheless, the courts will consider even that as a written document. So for courts, to put it simple, anything which is not oral is automatically a written one. So that is how they look at it. So the simple way to remember is, you will have to go by the visible forms. So anything which you can see is what is called writing. Indirectly, it need not be handwritten. So that is what is how we will have to remember this. Then whenever we use the word year, year means British calendar year and month means British calendar month. So these are the definitions that are to be applied. Now, before I proceed, because since this is a big chapter and you have got important topics to cover from, let's go back to it. Let's go back and revise it. Now, you tell me. I'll go back to the beginning, come here, and then we will discuss the remaining points. Quickly, what are the two objects of General Classes Act? To shorten the language and to bring in the uniformity of the language. So these are the two objects of it. Then what is the purpose? Purpose is to put in one single statute all the common definitions and common interpretations. That is the purpose of it. Then though it may sound like a repetition for you, but that is why you have come here. So because the more and more you repeat, the more and more simple it becomes whenever you are revising on your own. So kindly have the patience, because this is a small act, and the more number of times you revise, that much burden will get reduced for you whenever you are reading on your own. So kindly participate, make use of it for your good revision. It is for your good. Now, when I talk about the territorial applicability of it, there are 2 points that I have to talk about. General Classes Act on its own doesn't have any territorial limits, but then for which part of India that is applicable? Then wherever the Central Act is applicable, then it is deemed to have been applicable to that part. That's all. So that is what is the application of it. Then preamble. This is the most important one. So I will keep bothering you till the time we complete the revision of it, because this is the most important one. Now, preamble contains 3 things: scope, object, and purpose. Now, preamble and provision, which will override what? Provision will override the preamble of it. But then, do we need to refer preamble at all? The answer is yes. So, whenever we are interpreting, preamble is also required, though provisions are going to override. But then, when provisions are going to override, how does this preamble help? Say, preamble will help, though provisions will dominate. But while interpreting certain words, and particularly when the words are not very clear and the words are ambiguous, but that is when the judge or the interpreter of law, he had to refer to the what could have been the mindset, or what could have been the objective of the lawmaker. So when he wanted to look at it, then he will go back to the preamble. So that is where, though provisions are going to override, but wherever the words are not very clear or the provisions are not very clear, there is an ambiguity. That is why, to clear that ambiguity, they may have to look at the object and the purpose, why this act has come into picture. So that is when this, while interpreting the statutes, preamble also plays a significant role. Then the definitions. Before we start definition, each of this definition, now you tell me, if an act is having, if a specific act is having specific definition, and my General Class Act also has a definition, which definition do I go by? I repeat, a word is defined in the Central Act, the same word is also defined in General Classes Act. Now, then which one you go by? Central Act. Then indirectly, where I am going to use this definitions of General Classes Act, I will use them only when the word is not defined in the Central Act. So the priority number 1 is always for the Central Act. If it is not there, then I will come back here. Then quickly, as a matter of quick revision, means and include, which is exhaustive, which is inclusive. Means is exhaustive and include is inclusive. So now, which is flexible and which is rigid? Means is rigid because it is closed on, it is frozen, whereas include, it is ready to accept, so it is flexible in nature. But what if I use means and include? Exhaustive. That is, I have to give the effect of the word means, which means nothing but it becomes exhaustive. Then shall and may, which is mandatory and which is discretionary. Shall is mandatory and may is discretionary. That's all. Then we started discussing the words. Now again I will ask you the same thing. There are 3 words in General Classes Act which will have the same meaning: affidavit, oath, and swear. So all this will have the same thing. That is, it refers to affirmation or declaration by the people who are allowed to affirm or declare. That's all, instead of swearing. That is how the definition goes by. But technically, there is a difference between swear and affidavit. Now you tell me, which is written, which is oral? Affidavit is written and swear is oral. So whenever you are defining this, you do say that these three words will have the common definition, but that doesn't mean that these three words will be used in the same way. There is a difference. So if that affirmation is given in writing, then we call that as an affidavit. If that affirmation is given in oral, then we will use the word oath or swear. So that's how those two are oral and this is in writing. That is why still it is required. Now you tell me, whenever I use the word central government, before constitution and after constitution. Before constitution, whom it was referring? Governor generals. After constitution, whom it is referring? President and state governments and your union territories. That's how you talk about. Now I'll ask documents. I've just kept it a pause. We will discuss that in our interpretation of statutes. Now financial year. What is the difference between this word financial year in General Classes Act and Companies Act? Or I will rephrase that question. Keep these two acts in mind, Companies Act and General Classes Act. Which talks about April 1st? General Classes Act. Which talks about 31st March? Companies Act. So the Companies Act will focus on the last day of it and General Classes Act will focus on the first day of it. That is the difference between the same word used in two different acts. Then of course the calendar year, you know that it is always Jan to December, but the General Classes Act will always focus on the first. So it is always the first day of the January. So this is what are the definitions. Then good faith. What is the one thing that is required to say that the act is done in good faith? Honesty. But what is not really required? Skills. So that is skill sets are not required. Even if it is done negligently also, it becomes a good faith. But this word, again, whenever it is asked, you shouldn't get confused because under this is also asking from your Sale of Goods Act. But since you have studied that Sale of Goods Act, under Sale of Goods Act, if the buyer is negligent and he didn't verify the product properly, then the seller is not going to compensate. Buyer will have to bear it. So that way, under Sale of Goods Act, negligent acts doesn't come under good faith. So in that context, whenever you say good faith, that is how it is being questioned also. That if you see this is what he is asking. The act done negligently shall be deemed to be done in good faith. So even if there is a negligently done, still it can be called as a good faith, provided there is one word, honesty. So this General Classes Act gives more priority to the word honesty, whereas the other acts doesn't stop over there, be it your Contract Act or be it your Negotiable Instrument Act and be it your Sale of Goods Act and all. There they want this honesty and they also want that to be done in a skillful manner. So any negligence you will not be protected, but not under General Classes Act. Under General Classes Act, even if it is done negligently, it will become a good faith. That is the sharp difference in this word good faith between General Classes Act and other acts. So that is the good faith. Then we come to this immobile property. Before that, government. Whenever I use the word government, which government I am referring? Both the central government and the state government. Now your favorite one, immobile property. Now there are 4 points in it. Land, benefits to arise out of land, things attached to earth, and fastened to something which is attached to earth. Now I will ask random questions. Trees and timber. Which is immobile, which is mobile? Trees are immovable and timber is movable. And standing crop? Immovable. Standing crop is the crop which is still there. So it has not been cut. So now standing crop. Cut crop? Movable. So, and the bore wells? Immovable. And the electric pole? Immovable. Because it is fastened to earth but through this concreting and all that. So it becomes. But once they detach it and wherever say the road widening is happening, they detach that pole and they dump it aside. Then it becomes movable. So the same electric pole, when it is fastened to earth, it was immovable. But when it is detached, it becomes movable. Similarly, the metal pieces you see on the electric pole to see that the wires won't connect each other. So the metal pieces they keep, it's a metal piece. You can go to any hardware shop and buy them. So, but because it is fastened to something which is already attached to earth, so that will also become immovable. So this is how you have to keep various points in mind and remember. But what about insurance policies on immobile property? Is it immobile property or movable property? First of all, it is not a property at all. So it is a document. Similarly, you can ask, like he had asked immobile properties, this insurance policies, he can ask you one more question. What about my title deeds regarding these buildings? Building is an immobile. But what about the title deeds, that is the agreement copies, which are for purchase of buildings. So your agreement copies and all comes under document, and it is not a property in the first place. So the question of movable property or immobile property doesn't arise. So whenever you take any of these legal documents, be it your RC copies on vehicles, all those are the examples. So he had given insurance policies. Next time he can say something related to vehicles. So anything, those comes under documents category. Then this oath and all we have discussed. Then this year and those are the small points. So this is what are the definitions that is important to be remembered here. Then whenever you say, then we are getting into general interpretation. See, this General Classes Act, when you look at it broadly, it contains basically certain definitions. The whole purpose of General Classes Act is to provide definitions of certain common words and to provide some general rules of construction. We do have some specific rules of interpretation and construction, but the common ones which are not defined by any rules of interpretation, then we look at this General Classes Act. So in your mind you make up one broad vision. When you're looking at General Classes Act, you're not looking at only for the words. So you're also looking at some general interpretations which might not have been specified in a specific act. So if you broadly visualize what is there in the General Classes Act, two buckets that you can see. One is the definitions, which can be used if there is no definition in the Central Act. Similarly, common simple interpretations like gender and pro rata. So this way, which are not used specifically in it. That is how we will have to use this definition. So definitions part we have covered. Now we are covering this common rules of interpretation. Now under this common rules of interpretation, when an act will come into that is a coming into operation of enactment. Indirectly, when in India, when whenever you are talking about an act, when it is deemed to be effective from, like what we generally read it like with effective from, WEF and all that. So from what day it is deemed to have come into effect. That is what is what this concept is. In this, from what date it has come into effect, if any, generally you know that. Say why he is asking this question is, in social studies, probably in 3rd standard or 4th standard, we learnt about how laws are made in India. So first the government, the central cabinet will approve, and then it will go to the Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, and then both the houses, it has to get cleared, and then it will go to the president, and once the president signs, it becomes an act. So the last stage for all of us to say that the act has been passed, whether it is a bifurcation of Telangana state or amending this Companies Act amendments and all that, when you say that the act has come into picture, logically and theoretically, it is the day when the president is signing. That is what is, generally we know the act has come into picture. Now in that background he is asking, can we take in all the cases the signature of the president, that is the date on which the president is signing, is the date when the act has come into picture? The answer is no. So then how do we take? What date it is, what date shall be deemed as a commencement of an act? That would depend on, if the date is specified in the act, then we don't care when the president had signed it. So we will go by that such date, like particularly GST Act and all that. It has been signed by the president long ago. I'm talking about when it came in the beginning, but it was not made effective from the day the president is signing. So it has been made with a future effect so that the people get adjusted to the knowledge of it and the required knowledge and required changes and all that. So that way, if the date is specified in the act, then from such date. Or if no date is specified, then we go by the general assumption. That is the day when the president is giving the assent to the such bill. So then it becomes an act. So this is what is the commencement of an act. Then the most important one, which he is asking repeatedly, including January 2026, is what is the effect of repeal? Now, this one, kindly concentrate. It is the most important one. Now, just to get you all active into the class again, random questions, 1, 2, so that you answer and get your spirits back, and then we will continue with this. Now, three things preamble contains: scope, object, and purpose. Provision and preamble, which will have in the overriding effect. Provisions will supersede. Now, when I say government in the definition, which government I am referring? Central government and state government. Now, the important one, immovable property. How many points are there in the definition? 4 points. What are the 4 points? Land. Second one, benefits arising out of land. Things attached to earth. And fastened to something which is already attached to earth. Now, that is what we call it as this one. Then, financial year. Is it 1st April or 31st March? 1st April. Then, which act it is 31st March? Companies Act it is 31st March. But here it is 1st April. Now, when I use the word month and year, now which month and year, what is the definition? I am following which month and year? No. So, when I am talking about this month or year, we are talking about the British calendar. So that is, you know that even in our months and all that, now we have Jan, December and all that. But this is all we are using it only in the modern world. But once we go back, even in our own states and all that, every state, like north and south and all that, every state, they had their own months. So like Chaitra, Vaishaka and all that, which we follow as South Indians and all that. So it depends. So that's where it comes in. Whenever we say month, then do I go by my regional month or by the British calendar month? That's where they said. If it is specified in the Central Act, follow that. If it's not specified, then you will have to follow the British calendar month. So that is what is this word defined. Now, one last question. When do you say the act has come into effect? From what day you say the act has come in, any act has come into effect? It depends on two things. One is whether the date is specified or the date is not specified. If the date is specified, from that date. If the date is not specified, the day President is signing it, giving the accent to it. That's all. Now, coming to the major important one. This is one. Otherwise, the remaining points are very simple. You can copy it up. What is an effect of repeal? Now, whenever you are repealing, first of all, repeal means what? You tell me. What is the general meaning you understood of repeal? Cancellation, deletion and all that. But that is a general, common, you can say, if not the word synonym, but the parallel words for your understanding. But deletion is different and repealing is different. So, deletion and repeal, deletion is which is more powerful between that is the repeal is more powerful. So, when you repeal an act, it will have the impact as if that was never there. So, it is a complete wipeout of any act and all that. That is when we use that word repeal. But deletion is whenever you are partly deleting the act for some sections or some clauses and some chapters and all, then we use the word delete. But if you are wiping off the entire effect of it, the particular topic that you're talking, then we use the word repeal. So, when we use the word repealing an act, the act has been totally closed down. So, it has been totally shut off. That is when you use the word repeal. Now, to make you understand what is this effect of repeal, so that even if there, as of now, it is all theoretical questions. He is asking the direct question, what is the effect of repeal? But now the questions are becoming little more tough and little more practical. That's why I'm hanging here and trying to give you the practical version how we will have to analyze this. You take for example GST. Now you know the act which we had before GST. It is the sales tax. Now say in the sales tax somebody had not collected the sales tax and not paid it. So he has been arrested and he is in the jail for say some 10 years jail and all he is serving. There are offences on it. But when the government abolished that sales tax act and in its place it brought in the GST act, now the question comes for the judges. Suppose if that person is filing an application to the High Court which has sentenced him to imprisonment. He says, you send me to jail because I did a crime according to Sales Tax Act. But now the Sales Tax Act itself is not there. So therefore, now you have to release me out of the jail. So that is when the judges will look at it. When you repeal an act, is it that all the punishments that were given under the old act will also have to be stopped all of a sudden? Because we are a democracy and you sent him to prison, you are punishing him under specific sections of one act. But now when the act itself is repealed, then that section is no longer valid. Then shall we continue to put him in bars under the same section, which is act itself is not there? So in that background, you have to look at this word. What is the effect of repeal? So what it tries to say is, though repeal would mean total wipe off of that entire act, whichever we are talking of repeal of, but nevertheless, repealing an act will not have effect on certain things. Now, what are the 5 points on which repealing an act will not have any effect? Meaning, even if you have repealed the act, these 5 cases will continue as if the act is in place. It has not been repealed. Now, what are the 5 things? Now, for your benefit, in ease and understanding, instead of reading in this order, I have given this 1, 2, 3, 4, so that you can slowly get into it. First, read the first one. Any punishment. That's where I said, somebody had been sent into jail under Sales Tax Act, but now Sales Tax Act is no longer there. You brought in the GST. Now, therefore, should we release him because the act itself is not there? No. Any punishment or penalty or forfeiture, whichever is given under, it will continue, despite that act has been repealed. And then similarly look at it. Now, is it only for punishments? Or if you have given any privilege or given any concessions, then will that also continue? Both will continue, not only the punishment. So that's why the second one, any claim, any privilege, any debt obtained under the old acts will continue to be valid. Because when it was given, it was valid. So it will continue to be valid. So that is the one. And the third one does not affect the prior management. So the management will continue to be in effect. So like the sales tax commissioners at that time, take a simple example, but they were designated as sales tax commissioner. But when the Sales Tax Act itself is repealed, then where is the commissioner? Then is it that he will have to go back to the, he will be treated as a, removed and all that? Not necessary. The management will continue. So they will be assigned some other jobs. So that way, repealing an act will not affect the anything of the prior management. So just because the government elects now GST, imagine between GST and that, say, suppose now they are going back and bringing the VAT again. Now, then who are working in the GST department? That's what you compare it with the MNCs. Say you are working for a project in US, in Oracle or something like that. Once they lose the project, then you also have to go home. That's all. So that is how the MNCs work. But similarly here, as a government, like how as a private company employee, I was working in this project, company lost the project, so I will have to go. In a similar way, because you removed an act, does it mean that all the employees under the act will have to go now? That is not the intention. So all the prior management will continue to be there. So, and then the fourth one, any inquiries, not only the punishments, if some inquiries are going on, so or litigations are going on and all, that will also continue. Just because the Sales Tax Act has been abolished, that doesn't mean that you stop investigating the crimes against Sales Tax Act. That will continue. So that will continue to be there. And the fifth one, revive anything not enforced when this period. That is, the fifth point is something like an odd man out of it. What they say is, all this will continue. Punishment will continue. Claims or privilege will continue. Management will continue. Inquiries will continue. But what the fifth point is saying is, though all these are given effect as if the act is still live, but that doesn't mean that you cannot revive something which was not implemented when the act was there. So indirectly, when the act was there, you didn't implement it. But now the act has been abolished. Now, can I go ahead and revive what was there in it? No. If you have not done something when the act was there, you cannot do it fresh when it is repealed. That is what it is. So indirectly, if action has already been taken, for a simple way, if an action has already been taken, either as a punishment, as an inquiry, as a claim, then that will continue. But if no action has been taken, you can't bring in fresh ones. So after the repeal of it, that is all this 5 points of this repeal. To make you help this simply and easily remember this, what will not get affected by repeal of an act. First one is a punishment. Remember this as a one word, so that later on you can elaborate and similar words and all that. First one is a punishment, and second one is a privilege, claim or privilege and all. And the third one is the management, fourth one is the inquiry, and the fifth one is this odd man out. That is, you cannot revive anything fresh which was not done on the earlier points of time. So these are the 5 effects which we will have to remember whenever we are talking of effect of repeal. So there are multiple questions that are asked. Look at this September 24 question. Now 4 marks, simple points. Referring to the provisions of General Classes Act, answer the following questions. When new law is enacted by the Government of India, what shall be the date of coming into force? Now you tell me, from what day it is deemed to have come into force? It depends on what? Date is specified, date is not specified. If date is specified, from that date. If date is not specified, the day when the President is signing. Then the next one, whenever a new law is enacted to replace the existing law, it repeals the old enactment. Now describe the points which shall not have any effect on repeal. Now I want you to tell me all this. For your ease and comfort, I will keep this, but still I want the one words. So because since it's a repeat question, what is the one word? You write it in the order. Punishment, claim, management, inquiry, and then the last one, you can't bring in anything new after its repeal. So fifth one is slightly odd, but remember the 4 ones. So now again repeat it kindly, because you are just days away from your main exam, and it's very important for you to get hold on this important one. These are the latest questions. See, earlier traditional one was that immovable property, a number of questions were, but these are the ones which is focusing. That's why you see this 24, 25 questions being asked on these topics. That's why I'm bothering you more. Now you tell me again, what is the 1 words, 4 1 words you remember for writing this effect of repeal? Punishment, claim, management, inquiry. So these are the 4 ones. The fifth one is an odd man out. You can't bring anything afresh if it was not brought in when the act was there. That's all. So these are the 5 things which will not get repealed. Now, then we will go back to it. Then another important point, commencement and termination of time. Now, like say, you talk about, yesterday we were talking about this dividend. Now, 30 days you have to make the payment. Now, when you say 30 days you have to make the payment from the date of declaration, I declared it today. So, whenever I say, you take for example, 15th April it is declared. Now, do you take 15th, you start your 30 by counting from 15th, or you start by counting from 16th? So, that is where, how do I compute this commencement and termination of time from and to put it in a simple example? How do I take this from and to? So looking at the simple chart of it, because this is important. Commencement is nothing but from, and termination is to. So commencing, exclude the first in the series and include the last in the series. This is what he is trying to say. There are many questions that are being asked, but just to make you many questions that are being asked on this, linking to your dividend chapter and all this. But just imagine a small example. Now, 1st April 2025, something is there. Now, I want, if they say something, it has to be done in 3 days, then what is the day I have to do it? So, that is, will you count, when I say 3 days, will you start counting from 1st? No. So you start counting from 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So now I have come to 4th. Then do I have to exclude 4th and say 5th? No. So exclude the first in the series. That is, if I write, since it is the first day, exclude the first in the series. Then take this 3 days. But the last one, you have to include it in the series. Therefore, this is the one it becomes it. Now I have explained it for 30. In the exam, it may be 30 days, whatever it is. But the broader frame of questions are only to see, did you understand what to include and what to exclude? Now, if I have to exclude let me see whether you are sharp enough to remember. Simple one only, no big rocket science, but still I want to test. What if I exclude both, first and the last, then what word I use? Clear days, that's all. So that is how you have to use it. So when I say clear days, you are excluding the first day, you are excluding the last day. But when you that's how it is. But here it is slightly a lower version of it. You are excluding only the first one, but the last one you are including. So therefore you can't call this as an equivalent to clear days, because in the clear days you would have excluded even the last one also. So that is how you have to just, that logic will help you understand and help you cement this last piece of it. That is what is this commencement and termination. Then computation of time. This also he is asking. Now, what if my last day, due date, happened to be a holiday? See, that this is where your negotiable instrument act and other acts and all will differ. Under some acts, if the last day happened to be a holiday, then you should have done before day. So some acts will have this. That is where it is computation of time. So each act will have its own implication. But if the act is silent, it has not said anything, then what do I infer? So if the day when you have to perform is supposed to be a holiday, then it is done. The next day is treated as a due date. That's all. So for example, here he is asking for 2 marks, 2021. PK and VK had a long dispute regarding the ownership of a land for which a legal suit was pending in the court. The court had fixed the date of hearing 29/4/2018. So normally the judges they will adjourn for 6-7 months and all that. Judge had picked up some date and he had decided that 29/4. When he was saying that it was a working day, but after that it was declared to be a holiday. So when 29th was announced to be a holiday subsequently, then what day will come? The hearing will be on what date? Before date, that is a 20th or 30th. That is how the questions will come. So whenever the last day happened to be a holiday, then it is deemed that the next day will be in operation. So even in the courts, all the cases on 29th will be adjourned to the 30th. So that's how it is. So this is what is the interpretation of this. Then measurement of duties. Now this measurement of duties, measurement of distances. How do we measure the distance between places and all? So this is required in certain acts like Labor Acts and Industrial Disputes Act and all that, where they say certain industries are not supposed to be within 25 kilometers of the radius. So, but when they use this word 25 kilometers, where from I am starting? So, in that background, so how do we measure the distance between 2 points whenever it is required? We take it on a straight line in a horizontal plane. So, that is how we measure the distance of it. Then, duty to be pro rata. So take 5 stars to this. Nowadays he is asking this question. I think he is asked in 2026 also. First I will finish this and then go back. What he says is, whenever the duties are specified in particular unit, but you are dealing in fraction of units, then how do I go by it? So wherever you have to deal with these cases, the duty also have to be taken in a pro rata method. So that's what he is trying to say. Say if he says 5 rupees for 1 kilo and the duty, I just imagine, and you are buying 1.5 kilo, then proportionate amount you have to take. So that is what is the interpretation. Very simple interpretation, but still being asked. Then gender and number. So, because many times in the particularly the old acts, now they take care, they use a neutral gender, but in the older times, many acts, you see them referring to masculine gender, like even in the income tax of earlier times and all that, they say he shall file the return and all, but now they have modified, now they don't take any gender, they say the assessee shall file and all that. But some acts, very old acts and all, they assume they will be using only he shall file and he will be sentenced to jail likewise. In that background, the masculine gender even if they have referred to masculine gender, it would have the same effect of this feminine gender. So it is interchangeable, vice versa. Similarly, singular and plural. If they have referred singular, that doesn't mean you have to go by grammatical. So if it is singular means plural, plural means singular. Depending on the context, you can go by, you can adopt it. So no strict grammar is required. That is what it is. Where it will contradict you is the very next chapter we talk about interpretation of statutes. Now, in the interpretation of statute, grammar is also one of the ways how the judges will take. So, in the grammar, male means male, female means female, and singular is singular, plural is plural. So, grammar is very clear about it between the difference. But in the interpretation, I am allowed to take the grammar, but that is where this General Classes Act is clarifying. Go by the context of it. So just don't be rigid on it. So the grammar should not destroy the very objective of, or the purpose of the act. That is what they are trying to talk about it. So this gender and number, you can interchange depending on the circumstances. Then these are all the miscellaneous ones. There is nothing much about it. There is only one small point here. I will just take that point, this one, which he is asking in the examination. That is, how do we, this bylaws, putting it in a simple way, how the laws will come into picture. So whenever an act is brought in, what is the process? It is similar to something we have studied in social studies and all that. So how any act or bylaws or whatever it is, how it will come into picture, any regulation for that matter. So the authority will first prepare the draft and the rules, and after you can slightly change the headings and write. It's a generic discussion. So it's not that specifically you have to write in 3-4 points. You can write logically. First a draft is prepared. Why all this we are talking is, see, if we are ruled by the dictators, now they don't care the public views. So the dictator, like people like Hitler and all whom we talked about, they make the rules, everyone else had to follow. But ours is a democracy, very respected democracy. So then that's why we say that, I mean, in India, public will have more voice. But then are we making any rules for ourselves? No. But indirectly, we take part of it. So then how the laws are made in India. So that's how the broadly he's talking about. So first a draft is prepared, and the draft prepared is published in a manner which will help in reaching the particular community for which the laws is made. And then they wait, they give some time for the people to read and give their suggestions. And once that suggestion period is over, then the government, the authority will take all that suggestions into account, and they will finalize the draft according to the suggestions that they have received. And then it will follow the same process. Then it will go to the Lok Sabha, then Rajya Sabha, and then the President accent. So then the act will become final. So you need not write only in this manner. You can write in a generic manner as well. And once all that are done and it is officially published in the Gazette, then it becomes official. So finally, actually, this is also one more point. When an act comes into picture, now I will ask you that, and then I'll come to it. Now you tell me, which we have already discussed. What is the date under General Classes Act from which an act will come into effect? Date is specified, date is not specified. If date is specified, from that date. If date is not specified, the day when the president is signing it. That's how we say. But in reality, date of signing by the president is not what is more important practically. It will become a rule only once it is published in the official gazette. Say, you take for example, recent this capital confirmation for Andhra Pradesh. Now, president had signed, confirming that Amaravati will be the capital of Andhra Pradesh. But the gazette had to be notified. Till the time it is notified in the gazette, it is not legal. So, president signing is what we presume to be the last one. No. But after the president signing, officially it will be taken the day when it is published in the gazette. That is the day when it has deemed to come into picture. So, that's why for any law to come into picture, taking the signatures of governor and president is not sufficient. It has to be notified in the gazette. So the day when it notified in the gazette, it's a conclusive proof that it has become an act. So then everybody is bound by. That's all. So this is, that order is what we are supposed to write over there. That's all. And then remaining ones are simple. Then the last point that we discuss is where it may result into certain conflict is service by post. Now look at this one, because he is asking 5 marks questions, simple point, service by post. I will explain this, otherwise as a student you wouldn't bother, it will not matter much, but I will elaborate a bit and tell you how General Classes Act is different from other acts that you have studied. Now in Companies Act, though we didn't revise as a part of marathon, but under Companies Act in your chapter 2, this is the last discussion. Now how a notice had to be sent, or when it is deemed to have been valid. Now do you have to send by, even you take notice by the company to the members and all, do they have to send it by register post? The answer is no. So ordinary post is sufficient enough. So Companies Act, service by post, ordinary post is sufficient. But under General Classes Act, if you look at it, ordinary post is not sufficient. Wherever they say you have to serve a document, you have to serve a document only by register post. So then sending notice, that is where the contradiction comes. I repeat it, kindly listen to it, because this is what earlier times, it was an old question, to be honest with you, but as a matter of interpretation, he can again start asking you. I'll clarify. He may give like a big case study by confusing you. Under Companies Act, it is sufficient if the notice is sent by ordinary post. But however, in the General Classes Act, servicing of any document will be deemed as served only when it is sent by register post. So therefore, a shareholder who had received the notice by ordinary post, he says that company has not done its job. Now you tell me. Because you have studied the Companies Act, which says ordinary post is sufficient. Now, but the General Classes Act says register post is mandatory. Then for sending notice under Companies Act, do you have to send by register post or ordinary post is sufficient? Ordinary post is sufficient. Why do you say so? That is what is the general interpretation. If there are any definitions or if there are any interpretations in the specific act, specific central act, then the specific central act will be followed. The General Class Act will be followed only in the absence of the specific central act. So therefore, though there is a contradiction, but there is no contradiction. The law is clear. If Central Act says ordinary post, send it by ordinary post. Speed post is not, or the register post is not required. So that's how, logically, to see your understanding and the effect of General Classes Act, he can ask you a question. So with this, we complete our discussion on this General Classes Act. So quickly, before I say it's over, we will wrap it up, because since it is almost like close to 12 to 15 marks, and it really worth. Even I suggest, whenever you are revising, take this as a chapter 1 and revise as much as you can, and see that you are not going to lose any marks. Particularly the scanner related questions, the latest trend of questions, read everything to the maximum possible level. So because this is the easiest chapter where you can score the maximum marks. So, and it is a standalone chapter. So therefore, your marks are guaranteed. You need not even worry about it. Now look at this one. Now I want you to repeat this entire one. Because of its importance, I'm bothering you time and again for the repetition, and it's worth repeating it. Now tell me, what are the two objects of the General Classes Act? To shorten the language of Central Act and to bring in the uniformity of this. Then, what are the territorial applicability of it? 2 points you have to say. Point 1, it doesn't have any territorial limits. Then the second one, wherever the Central Act is applicable, this is deemed to have been applicable. Then, preamble. What are the 3 things preamble will contain? Scope, object, and purpose. Preamble and provision. Provision will override. But do I still need to use it for interpretation? The answer is yes. So, and when do I use this? He can ask you one strange question. When I am going to use preamble, I will use preamble when the words are not clear, when the words are ambiguous. So, then to know the real intention and the objective of it, I may still use this preamble for the interpretation. Then the definitions. Now, if the Central Act has defined a word, General Class Act also defined a word. Then which definition I should go by? Central Act. So then where should I use my General Classes Act definitions? Only in the absence of Central Act. That's all. Now, quickly, rapid round. Means and include. One word for means? Exhaustive. One word for include? Inclusive. Which is rigid, which is flexible? Means is rigid and include is flexible. What if I use both means and include? Exhaustive. We will have the effect of it. Shall and may. Shall is mandatory and may is discretionary in nature. Then, affidavit. There are three words that are similar. Affidavit, swear and oath. How do I define it? Simple. Affirmation or declaration by people who are allowed to affirm or declare instead of swearing. That's all. It's logically, it is simple one. But still, what is the difference? What is the one more point you write on affidavit? It's a written document. So, affidavit is a written document, whereas swear or oath are the oral ones. Then, central government. Now, I want you to, I'll just take the word and I expect you to revise. Central government. What is central government? Before the constitution, after the constitution. Before the constitution, governor generals. And after the constitution, president and state government and union territories. So, that's how it goes by. And then this document I am bypassing. Financial year. 1st April or 31st March? 1st April. Then where under 31st March? Companies Act talks about 31st March. Then the difference, good faith. What is required and what is not required? Honesty is required and skill is not required. So even if it is done negligently, it's all right. So there must be an honesty. If it is, there is no honesty, but there is a skill. It is done in a skillful manner, but it is not done honestly. Then can we call it as a good faith? No. So it's like intelligent person entering into your house in a very skillful manner. So there may be a skill, but skill is not the point here. So when you are looking at good faith, they look at the honesty in while doing it. This comes under for punishment and all that. Then whenever I say government, which one I am referring to? Both central government and the state government. Then immobile property, 4 points. I want you to revise. Land, benefits to arise out of land, things attached to earth, and fastened to something, permanently fastened to something which is attached to earth. Now, I will just ask, because in this, you have a wide scope where he can ask you generic questions. Like say, for example, an Indian flag kept on a building. You see the flags being kept on the building. Now, if a flag is kept on the building, movable or immovable? Getting it? Otherwise, reading this by hearting and all, those days have gone. Now he is asking insurance policy, standing crop, cut crop and all that. Otherwise, these questions were limited only to trees and timber. That's all. So, and more than beyond that, he never used to go. But now he is getting into the details of it. That's where now whether a flag is considered as an a flag post, whatever it is considered as an immovable property, we have to look at, is it fastened permanently or is it fastened in a temporary manner? Say, like on temples, like if you go to Maharashtra and all that, Shivaji statues and all that, the flags are almost permanent. So, if it is fastened permanently to the building, then it becomes an immovable property. But if it is not fastened permanently, if it is stuck in a loose manner, then it is not an immovable property. So, the word permanently also you have to focus. Otherwise, that's how you have to be creative and protect yourself. Otherwise, you end up losing a good amount of marks in this. This is the only one where your little interpretation is required. Remaining questions are straightforward. Only immovable property, you got to be slightly cautious. That is where I am trying to help you understand the conceptually about this concept. Then, let's go back to this writing. Now, writing, one word is visible. So, whichever it is handwritten, printing, lithography, anything it is, as long as it is visible, it is deemed to be in writing. One small question he may ask you as a case study. Now, prospectus, you know that will have to be in writing. But what about a prospectus put on a hoarding board? Television advertisements, you take for example. Television advertisement, will it be deemed as a written or will it be deemed as an oral? Otherwise, learning this definition in a passive manner is the easiest thing. So, to really understand the knowledge of this interpretation, writing means visible. but certain things it has to be in a writing mode. So like for example your prospectus and all that, so there, even if visible, though visible document is what can be treated as a writing, but certain things like advertisements and all will not be sufficient enough. So unless there are specific provisions in the act which requires it in a particular manner, writing includes visible form. That's how the general interpretation concludes. Then when an act come into force, date is specified, date is not specified. If date is specified, from the date is not specified, from the date president is signing it. Then effect of repeal, 4 points: punishment, claim, management, and inquiry. And then fifth point, you can't bring in anything afresh which was not there when the act was in place. Then all these are the symbol. From and to, commencement of time. Which one you include, which one you exclude? First one, what do you do? Say, I'll keep it here. First one, do you include or do you exclude? Exclude the first in the series and include the last in the series. So there is a good amount of probability for confusion. So tell yourself. But if I exclude both, it becomes clear days. So that's how you have to set your mind. And computation of time. What if the due date happened to be a holiday? The next day, that's all. And measurement of distances, always on a straight line mode and an horizontal plane. Then duty to be taken on a prorata. So, and where it is paid. And gender and number, it is used interchangeably. So that's all. So these are the points that we discuss on this General Classes Act. So with this, we will go for a short break, and immediately after the break I would prefer to start off with the FEMA so that we get some good amount of time to discuss, and then we can discuss the remaining topics depending on the time available, either speed it up or going slow. So after this 5-10 minutes break, let's start off with this FEMA concept of it. Thank you. Let's start off this FEMA. We will get into the details of this FEMA, and this one, because it's a marathon, I know we have limited time, but we will try to cover as much as possible, because this is the one which is slightly difficult for you and where you may try to have a revisit of the lecture and all that. So therefore, we will go little slow in completing this chapter. Now, this FEMA, it's a 1999, but it's been amended several times after that and all that. Now, let us get into the details first. Now, under this, first I will talk about from exam perspective. It is, earlier this chapter was at final, and inter it was never there in the place, but now that the standards are increasing and the subjects are being reduced, so therefore this final content has been brought to inter with a diluted portion. When it was at final, there were little more additional concepts that were being tested, but now it's a simple topic. Now in this, you're not studying the entire FEMA Act like how the Companies Act. You are studying only the limited sections. Likewise, first what you have to ease yourself is, you're not studying the complete FEMA. Studying the complete FEMA is actually more confusing. That is where you get into more advanced and very practical concepts. He is aware of it. That's how what he did is, under FEMA, whatever are the practical concepts, since you're not exposed to audit and articles and all that yet, because this is still a part of inter, so therefore he has avoided and he has ignored those kind of practical provisions which you need to keep in mind. And what he had included is only fundamental clarity points, like for whom the FEMA is applicable and who is our PRII, who is PROI, what is the applicability of it, and what are in general permitted, exempted, or where you require the approval, prior approval of RBI, central government. So all the discussion, though it is a scary as a student for you, but the discussions and the topics that he is covering are very simple and straightforward. So it is not very confusing ones. The real confusing ones, luckily for you, are out of your syllabus. So first gain the confidence, that all that you are studying here is only the conceptual clarity points. That's all. So you're not really discussing the various timelines and the various returns and various complicated practical provisions. What you are studying are very, very basic ones. It is just like getting an understanding of what FEMA is. That's all at a very broader level. So the discussion is going to be very simple. And just to give an overview of it, say you can start reading, covering one by one and all that. But before you start, look at it. What is that you will be learning and what is that you will be covering in FEMA? Since you already listened the complete chapter, you can easily correlate what I'm trying to say. The first big topic that you will discuss here is who is PRII and who is PROI. So that is the most important discussion. That is what you will be discussing first. And your series of questions in the examinations are to test your understanding. How do you define a person resident in India and a person resident outside India? So PRII and PROI. That is discussion number one. After that, he gets into the specific two types of transactions, current account transactions and capital account transactions. He defines them, what is current account transaction and what is capital account transaction, and then he is making you familiar with what are the schedules that are applicable for with regard to current account and with regard to capital account. That's all. So by and large, if at all I have to view this chapter at a broader level, there are only, like you can if you can draw a diagram, one side deciding or ascertaining PRII and PROI, and the second piece about current account transactions, and the third one is a capital account transactions. These are the only three segments that you learn at. And even in these three segments, the first two are discussed little in detail. That is, who is PRII, who is PROI, plus the current account transactions. These two have been dealt in detail, but the capital account transaction is not being dealt in detail. So that is like again touch and go. The very complicated practical provisions on capital account transaction are not part of your syllabus. So what you are learning is, what do you mean by capital account transaction? What is generally permitted? What is generally prohibited? So between current account transactions and capital account transactions, you are going to study almost like 95%. You're going to dedicate your time on current account transactions, and capital account transactions very little. So very limited content on that. So by all this, if we, as a student, if I want to get hold on the chapter for scoring marks in the examination, two broad conceptual points I should be clear with. First one, who is PRII and who is PROI, concept number one. And concept number two, what are current account transactions and what is permitted, what is prohibited, and where I need to take approval of respective central government and that. So if you limit yourself to these two, then it becomes easy. So just to do, even when you start, don't randomly start and then getting panicked like you're not able to get hold and all that. It makes you little unfamiliar, because all other topics, all other chapters, somewhere or other you can correlate. Like when he says prospectus, he will be using most of your familiar language. Company, money, share capital, share application. The terms looks familiar. But when you are reading FEMA, point one, RBI will play a dominant role in this. So because RBI, you never get to RBI in any of your other provisions. And the terms he is using are little high-end transactions. So therefore, it is what is actually tough in this is the terminology and the scenarios what he is talking is tough, but the provisions are very simple and straightforward. And luckily for you, the questions that he is asking are very straight and simple. But as a student, you find it tough. I agree. You find it really tough because the terms and the scenarios he is talking about are something which you are not used to it. Like say hiring of transponders. Now, you don't use that in a daily case. Say, suppose if he is talking about hiring of a vehicle, hiring of something, building and all that, you could have easily correlated half of the concept. But the moment he says hiring of transponders and all this kind of stuff, slow, your mind is little, becomes slow. So it becomes little defensive. So, that is what it is. Otherwise, even in these concepts, mind you, if you really want to get into it, like the attempt before, he's really grilled it. He's really grilled it. And the depth that he has gone is totally out of what is given in the material. So, by saying all this, I'm trying to give you confidence, saying that you're not reading very complicated things. So don't get scared by just because it is FEMA and all that. What you are learning is very simple, two concepts, PRII and PROI plus current account transactions, and to certain extent about capital account transactions. And the questions, I repeat, the questions are more or less stereotype. So there is no big interpretation that is required in answering these questions. Maybe out of say 12 marks, maybe 3 marks and all that may be little high end, but by and large, ICAI is always for surprises, like I just quoted. Attempt before is really grilled them. So if you are unlucky, you will get into that, but that's not very frequent. So if I take 10 attempts in a row, 9 attempts are comfortable and straight questions. 1 attempt can be a cranky one. So first be confident and face it with all the confidence and the energy. This chapter looks simple. The more and more you get scared about this, the more and more it will start scaring you. So be confident first and face it with clarity. You will find it reasonably good in understanding. Now let us get back to the first one. So under this FEMA, the basic ones, rules and regulations, say probable MCQ, very basic MCQ, who will set the rules and who will set the regulations. So normally in all other ones, it is the central government who will frame both in all the central acts. But under FEMA, the rules are framed by the central government, but the regulations are framed by RBI. So to make your mind accept this, how different this act is from the rest of this Companies Act. In the Companies Act, it's all the central government is the supreme authority. So central government will decide. There may be here and there small interference by RBI and all this, but very negligible. It's all the central government who would decide on all this. But when it comes to FEMA, the RBI also plays almost an equal role like the central government. So that is where whenever you see here, like certain transactions you require central government approval, you also require certain approvals from RBI. So RBI also plays equal role. That is what is demonstrated. Rules are framed and approved by central government, whereas regulations are by RBI. But whenever you are dealing in foreign currency transactions, you may have to follow the rules and you may also follow the regulation. That is why whenever you are dealing in these foreign currency transactions, you got to follow the rules of central government and you got to follow the rules of RBI as well. Now, let's move on. The preamble and all that I'm really not getting into it. Touching the ones probably where you may get a question or which is conceptually required, for whom the central acts are applicable. Say, as I said, at least earlier, maybe till 4 or 5 years ago, we used to have that confusion whether this act is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Some were applicable, some were not applicable. That itself, when we were studying, that itself was a big point to remember. But now, Jammu and Kashmir is very much part of India. So therefore now you don't have that confusion. All central acts are applicable to entire India. That's a simple one. But how this FEMA is different in that sense is, this one, when you talk about applicability, it is applicable not only to whole of India, it is also applicable to branches, offices or agencies which are outside India. So if you look at it, the reach of FEMA is not restricted to boundaries of India. It will go even beyond India also. So that is why this is one of the very few special acts which will have the power, which will give the power to the authorities to go beyond your Indian territories. So to that extent, to come back and conclude here, the territorial applicabilities of this FEMA is not just restricted to whole of India. It even extends to outside India, provided if those offices or branches which are outside India are controlled by a person resident in India. So as long as Indian link is there, whether you are doing the business in India or you are doing business outside India, you get covered under FEMA. That is how you will have to look at it. So this is one strange feature of this FEMA. Then you have certain definitions. I will touch upon, but considering this availability of time, I will touch upon the important ones. First is the authorized person. So authorized person would include all these people. So authorized dealer, money changer, offshore banking unit and all. So these are the people who are authorized. Now, simple word authorized person is a person who is authorized. Now, logically, I want you to tell me, they are authorized by whom? He didn't give it, but logically, I want you to tell me, they are authorized by whom? RBI. So mostly under FEMA, RBI will play a dominant role. So when you say authorized person, these are the people who are authorized by RBI to deal in certain foreign exchange transactions. So it includes that. Then capital account transaction, most important one. And capital account transactions, it will come in detail when we come to the last leg of this. But as a definition, because current account transactions are not defined, he says anything other than capital is a current account. So therefore, before we discuss current account transactions, we need to cover this. What are capital account transactions? This capital account transactions, if you see, or you see the definition, since you're all in this revision batch. Now first, let me listen from you. How do I simply put it across? What are my capital account transactions? Look at it and tell me, okay, there is a diagram, but explain me like 1, 2. If at all I have to say 1 and 2 are my capital account transactions, what is 1? Assets are liabilities which are in India, and owned by PROI. So, and in the second point, assets are liabilities, including contingent liabilities, outside India, but owned by or transacted by PRII. So, what is the link that you see is, if you are a PRII, and then that is to make it more simple and more easy for you, an Indian dealing an Indian transaction now is, FEMA has nothing to do with that. FEMA will get into picture only when foreign exchange is involved. So, and which means, that is what we simply put it across as wherever there are cross-border transactions. So, that is a foreigner dealing in India or an Indian dealing in a foreign, wherever there is a need for foreign currency, that is where the capital account transaction would get into picture. Like for example, where you may get confused in this capital word is, an Indian company buying a plant and machinery from an Indian seller. Now, is it a capital account transaction? Probably under accounts, machinery is a capital account. But under FEMA, any Indian transactions, the seller is in India, buyer is in India, then FEMA has nothing to do with that. So under FEMA, it is not a capital account transaction. First of all, unless it is a cross-border transaction, FEMA is not applicable. So to put it short, or to put it simple, FEMA will not be applicable for each and every transaction of yours. FEMA will come into picture only whenever the foreign exchange is involved. So that way, if you look at what are my capital account transactions, it's simple. Any assets and liabilities in India owned or controlled by PROI, or the second one, any assets or liabilities including contingent liabilities. That is, if it is outside India, apart from assets and liabilities, it includes even contingent liabilities, including contingent liabilities outside India, which are held by PRII. So there must be a crisscross, there must be a cross-border transaction. So that is what is required. Like if you see here, assets in India owned by an Indian, then is it a capital account transaction? No. Like a building. Now, me buying a building in SR Nagar, I am an Indian and I am buying a building in India. Now, for account related, for our financial transactions, building is a capital account transaction for our accounting and accounting standards and all that. But for FEMA, it is not the one. For FEMA, it will come into picture only when there is a cross-border transaction. So that is what it is. So a foreigner owning a land in a foreign country, FEMA has nothing to do with that. But a foreigner owning a land in India, FEMA will get into it. Similarly, an Indian owning something in foreign country, then the FEMA will get into the picture. So it requires a cross-border transaction. So now you tell me, how do I define capital account transaction? 1, 2. 1, assets or liabilities in India owned or controlled by PROI. The point number 2, assets or liabilities including contingent liabilities outside India owned or controlled by PRII, that's all. That is what is capital account transactions. Then the currency. Now look at it and tell me currency and currency notes. Which is a broader term? Look at it and tell me. Currency and currency notes. Which includes what? Currency includes currency notes. So when you say currency notes, the regular ones, like our coins and notes, whatever we talk about, that is currency notes in the form of coins and bank notes. But the currency includes not only currency notes, but the postal orders, drafts, your demand draft checks, traveler checks, all that it will include. So currency is a wider term than currency note. Then current account transactions. Current account transactions are, put it simple, it is other than capital transactions. That's all. He has given. So then what do I mean? Example of it. It includes. Whenever he says includes, is the list exhaustive or is the list illustrative? It is illustrative, so it is not exhaustive. So you can add. So that's why he has given 4, but it will not restrict it to 4. It's not, list is not exhaustive. So we will discuss that current account transactions a little later. Then the export and all those are simple points. And then person. Like in income tax, there is no big deal. Person need not be individual, and the person includes not only individual but artificial persons also, like HUF, company, firm, AOPs and all that it will include. Apart from that, till this point 6, there is no confusion. Even in income tax, you learn all this. But what is the definition speciality in FEMA is that 7th point. That is, it includes any agency, branch or office owned or controlled by such person. So not only the company, even the branch, even owned by this company will also be treated as a person. Now, then person resident in India and person resident outside India. This is the most important point. Almost I would say your 30 to 40% of the questions will come out of this PRII and PROI. Now, look at carefully here. Who is PRII and who is PROI? The first thing that we have to see is, first I will explain and then I want you to answer to it. And kindly concentrate, because this is the tough point, that why you are here, and mostly in the exams also you need to analyze each and every case on your own. So look at it. Who is PRII or PROI? First I will look at it in the previous financial year. Has he stayed in India for more than 182 days? Now, if the answer is yes, he had stayed, then the second question you think of it is, okay, he would have stayed in the previous year for more than 182 days. But has he gone out of India in the current year? Now, and what purpose? There are 3 purposes. First, get hold on these purposes. What are the purposes? Employment, business or vocation, and any other uncertain period. So, 3 things here. One is the employment. That is, all these points, purposes, these are for long term. So, like people keep going to be with the children in US, like say the parents, if their children are in US, they go there, be there for 6 months as long as the visa is there, and then they come back, or somebody will be going to tour and all that. So that will not come. That's a temporary visit. But in these things, if you are going for these purposes, then it's almost like a long term. We will not say permanently you're leaving, but mostly almost it gives the same meaning. So what employment, business or vocation, and uncertain period. So wherever any other purpose, but must be for uncertain. These are the purposes. I'll come back here. How do I decide whether he is a PRII or PROI? The first thing I have to do is, now you tell me, what is the condition 1 I have to see? Previous year stay. Previous year, how many days? More than 182 days. But he had stayed for more than 182 days, and he has gone out of India in the current year. Then what will happen? So then he will become PROI. So indirectly, unlike your income tax. So in the income tax, your previous year stay is what will decide whether you are a resident or a non-resident. But under FEMA, apart from your previous stay, you also have to see, okay, previously year he had stayed for more than 182, but has he gone out of India in the current year? If your answer is yes, then you are PROI. Now look at the other way around. Now you tell me. I was there in the previous year for more than 182 days, and even in the current year also I am there for more than 182 days. I have not gone out of India. Then am I PRII or PROI? PRII. Now I'll put that question differently rather than simply reading and looking at it. I was there for more than 182 days in the previous year, and this year, like simple example, this year he got a job in US and he left US. But in the previous year he was there for almost 365 days. So for the current year, is he a PRII or PROI? PROI. So two things I have to see. One is, what about the previous year? And second one, what about the current year? And then the third one is, what are the purpose? So these three angles I have to see. Now, then look at a scenario. What if I am not there in the previous year for 182 days, but then did I come back to India? Did I come to India in the current year for these three purposes: employment, business or vocation, or any other uncertain period? Now, if I have come to India for any of these purposes, then I becomes PRII. So I was not there in the previous year for more than 182, and I have not come to India for these purposes, then I am a PROI. So the simple summary, I want you to get hold on it. Now let's go step by step. What are the three purposes that we have? Employment, business or occasion, and uncertain period. Vacation is different, occasion is different. Vacation is a holiday, so that will also he is asking questions. That is why you have to be slightly careful. Is it a VA or VO? So if it is a vacation, it's a holiday. So, and maybe it's a temporary. But occasion, like people go for taking coaching in cricket field and all this, or an artist going and settling over there. Likewise, occasion is a long term. So vacation is a temporary. So that's how business or occasion and any other purpose. So for uncertain period. Then to see that you understood this, be clear. In what two situations I will become PRII? Or I will make that simple for you. I want you to tell me, look at this and tell me, so that you will, your understanding will become more and more clear. I want to become PRII, but in the previous year, I will write it, and current year. In the previous year, I have stayed only for 10 days. Then when this guy will become PRII? That is, in the previous year he was not there, but still he can become a PRII. When he can become a PRII? If he has come to India in the current year. For what are the three purposes? Employment, business or occasion, and uncertain period. Any other but for uncertain period. So even though you are not there in India in the previous year, there are still chances that you become PRII. Now, the second case, again I want to know when I will become PRII. In the previous year, I have stayed for 200 days. Now in the current year, now say suppose I have not gone anywhere outside India. Then that is not gone anywhere outside India. Then will I become PRII or PROI? PRII. But when in this case I would become PROI. I was there in the previous year for more than 200 days. I'll put that differently. Now I want to know when I will become PROI, when I am already there in the previous year for, let's say, 250 days. But still, when will I become PROI? If I have gone out in the current year outside India. So, and for what purposes? Employment, business or occasion, and uncertain period. So if I have gone out of India in the current year, then I will become PROI. So that way, whenever you are trying to answer this, no hurry. The more and more the eagerness or the fast that you wanted to answer, that is when you get confused. Go in a slow-paced manner. So, three things, again coming back to it. For defining PRII or PROI, you need to analyze in three things. One is the stay of the previous year, and the second one in the current year. Have you gone out or have you come in? And these two, and third one is the purposes. In case you have gone out or come in, then the purposes. These three, if you are good, you can easily talk about this PRII or PROI. So whenever you are answering questions, mind you, it looks complicated, but there is no complication. Just that your approach had to be little slow. So take time and no hurry and no worries, because particularly for you in the law paper, the chances of you not able to answer all in 3 hours doesn't arise. So timing was never an issue in law paper, even in your main exam. So therefore, don't be in a hurry. Go in a systematic manner, analyze carefully, and then you answer to it. Now, finally, we will wrap it up. Now, who is PRI and who is PROI? 3 things I have to check. One is the previous year stay. Second one, has he come in or gone out of India in the current year? And third one, purposes. Now, previous year, how many days? 182 days. In the current year, coming or going out for 3 purposes. What are the 3 purposes? Employment, business or vocation, or uncertain period. These combination would tell you whether he is a PRII or PROI. So, now, still, what is not important in FEMA is your citizenship. So, citizenship is not at all important. So, an Indian can become PROI, a foreigner can become PRII. So, it doesn't care about your citizenship. So, just to confuse you, he may say that he is an Indian. But like most of our tech guys, he is an Indian citizen, but just gone outside of US, gone outside of India to US for employment. So, citizenship is not the point. Citizenship is never a criteria. So, that is what you have to remember it. But this is for individuals. The same PRII and PROI, we also have to look at it for branches. Now, when for defining these branches, what we have to see is, if the branch is in India and if it is owned or controlled by PROI, then what it will become? PRII. And if the branch is outside India, but still, when it will become PRII? When it is owned or controlled by PRII. So, now you tell me as a summary, when a branch or office will become PROI? Outside India and controlled by outside Indian. Now, if a branch is in India, controlled by an Indian, in India, branch is in India, controlled by an Indian, like my office. Now, I have an office in India and controlled by me. Who is an Indian? FEMA has no application, because FEMA will get into it only for cross-border transactions. That's how you have to look at it. So, now you tell me, for agencies, branches and offices and all that, when I will become PROI? Simple question first. Branch is outside India, owned or controlled by outside India. Then I am PROI. When I am PRII? Branch is in India, but controlled by PROI, or branch is outside India, controlled by PRII. So, in these 2 cases, you will become PRII. So, now again, one last time I will ask you, when a branch will become PROI? Branch is outside India, owned or controlled outside India. So, then it doesn't come under this FEMA perspective. And similarly, when it is in India and controlled by an Indian, again it is out of control under FEMA transaction. So, that is how you have to look at whether it's a PRII or PROI. Now, let us look at the examples of it. Now, let us look at this first, and then we will go to the individual ones. This Printex computer is a Singapore-based, almost all the questions, if you are discussing this question, you will be discussing almost like 5 or 6 questions of the past. All questions are same. Company name changes, but the scenarios are same. Now, Printex computer is a Singapore-based company. So, meaning, Printex is what? Is it an Indian company or a foreign company? because it is a Singapore based company. So it is by the Singaporeans. Now having several business units all over the world. It has a unit for manufacturing computer printers with its headquarters in Pune. So they have an office in Pune. Now it has a branch in Dubai which is controlled by the headquarters in Pune. So for this company, the office is in, headquarters are in Pune, meaning owned by PROI, Singaporeans. So the people from Singapore are owning it, but the headquarters, that is their registered office or the head office is in Pune. Now, will it become PRII or PROI? So that is what you have to see. Where is my branch? Where is it situated and controlled by whom? So whenever you are analyzing under FEMA, that is where it becomes slightly different from income tax. Income tax will go by the overall company, but FEMA, every branch is analyzed. So since they have got two branches, Pune and Dubai, now what is the residential status of Pune? Now this is in India and owned by whom? Singapore. That is owned by PROI. So is it PRII or PROI? PRII. Now look at Dubai. Now this Dubai, it is outside India and controlled by PRII. So though situation is outside India, but it is controlled by PRII. So it becomes PRII. Now when Dubai branch would have become PROI? It is in Dubai and also controlled by Singapore. Then it is a PROI. So it wouldn't have become PRII. So just because branch is outside India, it's not that like in India, in income tax, that's what happens. Once a person is staying abroad, then he becomes a non-resident. But here, doesn't matter. Even if you have office outside India, but as long as it is controlled by an Indian, it is an Indian office. That's all. So, is a PRII. That is how you go by the analysis of it. Then, look at this case. Or before looking at it, first look at the small case and then I will get into this. Suresh resided in India during financial year 2021. He left India on 15th July 21 for Switzerland for pursuing higher studies in biotechnology for 2 years. What would be his residential status under FEMA for 21-22, 22-23? Say, suppose I want to analyze for 21-22. What is the previous year for this? 2021. In 2021, how many days has he stayed? Look at here. Suresh resided in India during the entire 21-22. So all 365 days he is. Now will he become PRII? Because in the previous year he has been there for more than 182 days, he will not become. So I have to look at even the current year. In the current year, that is 21-22, has he gone abroad? Now, like 21-22, that is what is July 21. In July 21, he has gone abroad. But for what are the purposes normally we consider? Employment, business or occasion, or uncertain period. But here, it is higher studies. So he didn't go for employment, he didn't go for business or this one. And is it uncertain period? No, it is very certain. It is for 2 years he is going out. So that is where, if it is for any other, our answer would have been different. But why he is talking about higher studies is, though the period is certain, but what the RBI clarified is, whenever the people are going for higher studies, the chances of, though it is a fixed period, finite period, but the chances of those guys coming back will not arise. Like you take the students, whoever go abroad. Why they are going abroad? Not really for the sake of studies. It's not that the education is so better over there and they are leaving and going. Why they are going? And they finish this graduation and somehow they get to the jobs over there and they keep on changing their visa status from student visa to H1B visa and all that, but they continue to be there. So indirectly what RBI told, though higher studies is for a finite period, any course will be for a definite period. You don't do any course which is for uncertain period. So, though it is for finite period, RBI told these guys, whoever are going for higher studies, they will never come back. So, RBI said, looking at the practical realities, if somebody is going for higher studies, though it is for 2 years, but assume that they will not come. So if they're going for a longer period, then they will become PROI. So that's all. It's as simple as that. So, but that is that additional clarification. Then for 22-23, PRII or PROI? So for 22-23, what is my previous year? 21-22. In 21-22, has he stayed in India for more than 182 days? No, he left in July itself. So he never stayed for more than 182 days. But did he come back to India in the current year? He didn't come back to India also because he has gone. Coming back details are not there. So therefore, he is a PROI. So this is how, in the sense, even if you are able to answer the confusion from the student mind, I'll tell you, you will be able to understand. But still, you will not have the confidence that anything new is given, I can answer to it. But accept that little confusion. Don't worry. It requires a calm and quiet mind. That's all. So a calm and quiet mind, you can understand and answer all these questions. The more and more you get panicked, the more and more horrible it is going to become. So apart from the three purposes, one additional confirmation is this RBI clarification. They have given the note, circular number and all that. But whenever students are going abroad for education, though it is for finite period, they will never come back. Treat them as PROI. That's all. That is the generic definition that we need to see. Now look at this one. Only thing that you go through in this is questions are simple. After answering, you will realize. But whenever you are reading, there will be a little confusion. There will be a little fear in your mind. Can I answer this or no type? So accept that. It's going to be easy to deal with that. Now look at this one. And May 24, and it is asked for 4 marks. So L was employed as a fashion designer in Elegant Textile Limited, a public limited company in Gurgaon. So he is working in India during 23-24. He had efficiently provided his services for 183 days during the above period. So 23-24, he is there for more than 182 days. That is 183 days. And on 1/4/2024, that is 24-25, next financial year, Mr. H, the human resource manager of Jeff Fashion Limited, Paris, offered him a better employment opportunity in such company. So, therefore, on 2/4/2024, L left for India for taking up the employment. How do you summarize? Now, look at till here. He has gone out for employment in India. So, for analyzing my PRII, PROI, what is the first condition that I look at it? Previous year stay. Now, has he stayed in India in the previous year for more than 182 days? Yes. Then what is the second one I have to do? Has he gone out or has he come in? If he's already there in India, then did he go out? But if he's not there in India, then I have to see, did he come? So that is how we have to see. Now, since he was already there for more than 182, then before concluding, I have to see, has he gone out of India? So now in this case, he has gone out of India. Then my purposes will drop in. Now, for what purpose he has gone? What are the three purposes? Employment, business or vocation, and uncertain period. Exception to that is higher education. So higher education, though it is for finite period, he will be treated as PRY. So in this case, he left for employment. So now what is his status? Suppose if the question is ending here, then what is L here? PROI, that's all. So that is what he will become. Now look at it. So on 30/4/2024, he flew back to India. He left on April 2nd, but on 30th April he is back. Within 28 days, he flew back to India for 10-day family function in Mumbai. Because since he had stayed here and all that, there was he has built up some contacts, and though he has gone out, but there was a marriage at home or something, his sister is getting married and all, he has come back to India for a 10-day family function. Now this purpose, family function, will it come in our three purposes? So it is other purposes. Now other purposes, but for certain period, because it has come for a 10 specific days. So it doesn't fall in our purposes. Now he is asking, in the light of this FEMA provisions, confirm the residential status of L on his return for attending the family function. Now he has already a PROI. That is what we said, because he has gone out for employment. But he has come back again for 10 days. Just because he has come back, now are you going to treat him as PRII? No. Why no? Because it is not falling under any of the three purposes. Suppose on 30th April, if he had come back to India because he got another job in India, then he would have become PRII. So the purpose is what it matters. So on his return, he is still a PROI. Maybe he would have come back to India, but not for the three purposes. So therefore, that is immaterial. It's as good as he has not come to India. So when he has not come to India, he is a PROI. Then in case, instead of vacation, that's what I was telling you. Vacation is different, vacation is different. This is called vacation. Now 10-day short trips and all that. He joins an employment in Indian company. Then the answer is different. So then once you join an Indian company, then you have come back for employment. Once you are back to India in the current year for employment, you become PRII. That's all. Now, I will just ask you a question. Somebody, just only this is the last point. After that, we will move on to current and capital account transaction. Let's say A. In the previous year, 22-23, he has stayed for 0 days because he was working abroad. Now, in next financial year, 23-24, he came back to India, but on 31st March 24. But whenever he has come back for an employment in India. But when did he come back? On the last day. Effectively, in this financial year, he was there only for 1 day. But he has come back for employment. PRII or PROI? PRII. So, because that's a small extensions that he can try to confuse you. So, indirectly, whenever they are coming back or whenever they are going out, 182 days will not be the point. So in the 182 days, you will consider only for previous year. In the current year, once he is back to India or once he is going out of India, it is only the purposes, but not the dates. So dates you should not keep in mind and get confused with that. So this is the discussion on PRII and PROI. And as I told you, the most important point in this is citizenship is not the point at all in deciding it. Then we will move back to this next sections. So in this, the section 3, regulation and management of foreign exchange, it's a small one. No person shall deal, payment or receive any money without that. Indirectly, this is the summary that we can take it for proper understanding. He is asking questions. That is, only authorized person. When I say authorized person, who is authorizing him? RBI. Only authorized person is allowed to deal in the foreign exchange or to make the payment in foreign exchange or to receipt in the foreign exchange or to enter into financial transactions. This is the better way how you can read this for, because he is asking case study questions out of that. If you read as it is what he has given, it will be slightly confusing. So take a simple version of it. What he says, only the authorized person is allowed to do 4 things. To deal in the foreign exchange, that is selling somebody foreign exchange, buying the foreign exchange and all that, or make the payment in foreign exchange, or receipt in foreign exchange, or enter into financial transactions. So only authorized person is allowed to do, nobody else should do it. So this is the simple way how you can understand this section 3 of it. Then that is where he has given various examples and all that. That's fine. So that's a simple one. Then current account transactions. Now, before I discuss current account, because current account transactions are other than capital account transactions. Now, let me hold back here. Now, you tell me, how do I define my capital account transactions? What are my capital account transactions? Assets or liabilities in India, controlled by PROI. And the second point, Assets are liabilities, including contingent liabilities outside India, controlled by PRII. So those will become capital account transactions. Anything other than capital account transaction is a current account transaction. So that is what it is. He has given the example, but example is all right. Even without that, it is. Now, when it comes to this current account transactions, first get the overview of it so that it becomes simple for you. There are three schedules that he is giving here. One is Schedule 1, and second one is Schedule 2, and third one is Schedule 3. Schedule 1 is prohibited transactions, and Schedule 2 and Schedule 3 are permitted transactions, but you require prior approval of different people. Under Schedule 2, you require prior approval of central government. Under Schedule 3, you require prior approval of RBI. So, and that is where this LRS scheme and all will come, but I go step by step. Now, you tell me. Put it in a simple way. What are current account transactions? One liner. Other than capital account transactions. Now, what are the schedules that I have in current account transactions? How many schedules? 3 schedules. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. Which is prohibited? Schedule 1 is prohibited. So, whatever is given in the Schedule 1, I am not supposed to do it. Then Schedule 2. Schedule 2 and Schedule 3 are permitted, but what is the difference? Schedule 2 I require prior approval of central government, and Schedule 3 I require prior approval of RBI. That is where there is a scheme called LRS, and under that LRS scheme, now up to $250 a person can send, because now India is full of positive cash reserves, foreign reserves, so they are allowing people per person per financial year. You want to send up to $250, it is all right. You can send, no RBI's approval is required. I will get to that little later. Now, then what happened is, in each of these, schedules, he has given certain transactions, maybe lotteries, we will see each of it. But you have a transaction which is not referred in any of these schedules. Because this point I want you to, in each of the schedules, he has given a list of ABCD type. But that is, if what I wanted to do is going to fall in Schedule 1, I will not do it. What I wanted to do is falling in Schedule 2, then I will take central government approval. If what I wanted to do is falling in Schedule 3, I will take RBI's approval. But whatever I wanted to do is not referred in any of the schedules. Then what I can do? That is where this assumption will come. If anything not falling under any of this specified list, it is assumed that you can freely undertake. So it doesn't come under prohibition. Indirectly, which list is restricted? Prohibited list is limited, or permitted list is limited? Prohibited list is specified, and anything other than prohibited, though they have given some points in Schedule 2 and Schedule 3, even if they are not included in Schedule 2 and Schedule 3, go ahead and take it. So, prohibited transactions are very, very restricted. So, that list you have to see. Now, look at that list. What are the Schedule 1? Simple questions. Questions are also very straight and forward. It's only one attempt thus far where you had really given out of syllabus questions. Other than that, all questions out of FEMA are straight and simple. Don't worry about it. So, just no need to get panicked. Only one attempt. That kind of odd situation can happen in any chapter, in any attempt. So, that we will ignore it. Don't take that as a yardstick. But questions are straight and simple from what you read. Now, what are the prohibited transactions? First one, lottery winnings. Second one, remittance of income from racing and riding and all that. And third one, remittance for purchase of lottery tickets and all. Now, lottery tickets are there in 1 and lottery tickets are there in 3. What's the difference? First one is the lottery winnings. Second one is remitting for purchase of lottery tickets. So, that is the difference of it. Or banned or prescribed magazines, or football pools or sweepstakes, etc. and all. That is to put it simply, gambling related. So, it is prohibited. Then, payment of out of this, wherever I have given stars, they are the ones which you need to be good with. So, going by the, when I say the stars, they are the ones on which are getting repeated in the examination. So, payment of commission on exports made towards equity investment in joint ventures or wholly owned subsidiaries abroad, Indian companies. I will explain that little later. What is that investment? Then remittance of dividend by any company to which the requirement of dividend balancing is applicable. What is this dividend balancing? That is easy trying to say I should not pay dividend outside India. So what is this dividend balancing? That you need to understand first. When I say dividend balancing, because he didn't elaborate, that is where as a student you get slightly confused. Dividend balancing is earlier whenever we had limited foreign exchange, because we used to export less and import more. So our inflows of foreign exchange are limited because hardly anything is there that we can export, but we were importing everything. So there was a shortage of foreign currency in India. That time, what the government of India said is, that is why we had all these dividend balancing rules. The dividend balancing rules is, put it in a simple way, considering the time available. Under this concept, you cannot pay dividend, because when you pay dividend, when Indian company is making dividend, money is going out of India. So now a foreigner had invested and he is taking the dividend now. Many times we see certain companies, they pay the dividend of 700%, 7,000% and all that. So that's where this dividend balancing was applicable. So wherever the dividend balancing is applicable, to cut short, you can't pay dividend. That is, the outflow in the form of dividend cannot exceed the inflow in the form of investment. That is, if you are bringing $100, take the dividend up to $100. Even if your business is doing a super business, you are earning a super profit, we don't allow you to take more dividend than what the investment you brought in, so that outflows will not become negative. That is what was the intention. So indirectly, I repeat, when I say dividend balancing, there is a maximum cap on the amount of dividend. And what is the maximum dividend you can pay is equal to the amount of investment you brought in. So that if I look at what you brought in and what you are taking out, we don't want to have more negative outflows. That is what is the simple logic behind it. So in that background, any company for whom dividend balancing is applicable, now they want to remit dividend more than this dividend balancing and all that, it will not, it is prohibited, because there is a cap on maximum dividend that you can take it. Then payment of commission on exports under rupee state credit route. So this is again a big discussion that is required. Now we don't have time to get into the details of it. So this was a scheme where particularly the Russia and all that, they have allowed us to make the payment in Indian rupees and all. It was a friendly gesture at that time, but remember it, as of now, rupee state credit and all that, we will discuss it at a later point of time. And then payment related to callback services. Take 3 stars. So this callback services repeatedly is asking. So direct question. There is no big interpretations and all. It's a direct question. Then remittance of interest income on funds held in non-resident special rupee scheme account. Unless you know what are these schemes, you will never be able to connect to what it is. Say, look at the first one is the rupee state credit route, and the second one, that is in the rupee state credit route, it was something a goodwill gesture extended by Russia, where we can settle that exports in Indian rupees, because our Indian, at that time, the problem for India is we had short of foreign exchange. So some countries have come forward, like Russia and all, who are our friends. They said, don't worry, to us, you import from us, and you don't have to pay in our dollar and all that. You pay in Indian rupees. So that is the facility given by them. So that was a different scheme. There is a different background, and there is a lot of politics and all that, but let's not get into it. The second one, what is this non-resident special rupee scheme account and all this? This is an account opened by non-resident entities within business interest in India. Say, I will put that in a way how you understand. There is a foreign company, they wanted to do business in India. Now, when they want to do business in India, now in India, nobody will pay in dollars. If you insist that you have to pay in dollars, now your business will not grow. So people will pay you in INRs only. So that is where certain NRIs, non-resident entities, but if you are doing business in India, then for the convenience of public, they were allowed to accept this INR value. So they can open a bank account in INR. Otherwise, as per the RBI, the law is simple. If you are a foreigner, don't open INR account. So, because you have nothing to do here. So that's how it works. But in this case, he is a non-resident. But because he is doing business in India, they were allowed to open Indian bank account, in Indian INR account. But what is the restriction here is, what you should not move from here is interest income. Let's say, I will elaborate. Say, you take example Microsoft. Now, Microsoft is doing business in India. Just take a random example. Now they are doing business in India. When you are doing business in India, when you deal with Indian people will pay in INR. You can't expect the people to pay in dollars. So they've opened an INR account. Imagine from Indian people, they sold worth, let's say, 60,000 rupees. Just imagine, 60,000. Can they take this 60,000 back to their US? This money you can take it. We don't have a problem. But what you should not take, because since you kept this money in Indian bank account will give interest. Maybe on 60,000, they would have given interest of, let's say, 6,000. So your total balance in your account is 66,000. Now this Microsoft want to take all this 66,000 to US. That is not permitted. Whatever you sold, 60,000 you take, we don't have problem. But you can't take this interest money. So that way, what is being restricted here is only to the interest income for the money that is staying in this non-resident state rupee scheme accounts and all that. But anyway, let's stay back and try to get hold on what are all prohibited transactions. Before that, you tell me, what are current account transactions? One simple definition. Other than capital account transactions. How many schedules are there in current account transaction? 3. What are the schedules? Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. Which one deals with prohibited? Schedule 1. And what does Schedule 2 talks about? Permitted, but approval of central government, prior approval. Schedule 3, RBI's approval. That is a broad structure. But I want to enter into a transaction, cross-border transaction, which is not there in any of the schedule. Am I permitted to take it or am I not permitted to take it? Permitted to take it. Freely it can be freely undertaken. Now, in this prohibited list, slowly we should start getting hold of it. What are all not permitted? At least the star ones you should remember. One is the lottery winnings, that is anything to do with the lottery. Either a lottery winning or a purchase of a lottery tickets or any prohibited magazines. Because there are certain magazines at that time and based on our culture and all that, we don't want that people to subscribe to that magazines. Whereas, but in foreign countries, those magazines were freely available. So, because the culture in Western countries are different, but India never wanted them to subscribe. So that way certain magazines, sale and purchase of magazines in India are banned. So at that time, now it's all available, the net and all that, it's different. But at that time, it was a very traditional India. We never allowed to sell certain types of magazines which are adult oriented and which are sensitive to the national interest and all this kind of stuff. Or even on some magazines will teach the people on how to take drugs and all that. In US, it's all right because you can sell the drugs, so you teach your people how to take the drugs. But in India, they never wanted to get exposed. Likewise, certain magazines were banned. So you sending any money for purchase of that banned magazines and all that is obviously banned, prohibited. So to go back, lotteries, racing and riding and all that, and then you have this callback services. 3 things you remember clearly. Most of the times your answer, your question will be out of that. Lottery winnings, races and riding, and callback services. All these 3 are prohibited. Apart from that, interest out of non-resident state rupee account, only interest is prohibited. Otherwise, it is not prohibited. Now, I will ask you a question. For which companies payment of dividend is also prohibited? For which companies payment of dividend is also prohibited? To those companies to whom the dividend balancing is applicable. That's all. So, this is what is this prohibited list. Then, look at the Schedule 2. In your Schedule 2, these transactions require prior approval of Government of India. But when you say Government of India, you cannot write simply the central government. you have to go little specific. In the central government, which department's approval you require. So whenever you read, you have to read not broadly like government approval, which department of central government will give you that approval. Now, first one, cultural tours. Now, whenever you are going for cultural tour, the star ones are the ones where you have more probabilities. First one, Ministry of Human Resource Development, HRD. You need to take approval from them. Second one, advertisement in foreign print media for the purposes other than promotion of tourism, foreign investment and international bidding. So that is, like you take Gujarat. Gujarat, when Narendra Modi was the chief minister, he wanted to advertise. So, and that is where he has brought in celebrities and all for campaign and all, because they want the people to come to Gujarat and spend time. That way, if you want to promote your tourism, and whom do you want to come to Gujarat? Not the people from Gujarat. You want foreigners to come. So he want to go and advertise in foreign countries about the inviting the people to come and see how beautiful our Gujarat is. Likewise, if it is for promoting tourism or foreign investments and all, it is allowed. You can do that. But apart from that, you want to advertise anything else in foreign print media, then you got to take permission of Ministry of Finance. But this is applicable only for entities which are owned by state government and public sector undertakings. Now, I'll clarify this. Of course, he is not asking in depth. A normal company, you can advertise anything in foreign country, you can remit. But you are a government company, you are a PSU, and you want to advertise in foreign. If you are advertising for the sake of nation, bringing investments or promoting tourism, India understands. Then you can do it. But apart from that, you are advertising something else, being a government unit, then you got to take permission. What is that you are advertising and why are you advertising? So, indirectly, they don't want this when the government is having a foreign currency shortage. They don't want this government to spend more money liberally and all that. That was a logic. So, advertisement in foreign print media exceeding this $10,000. Then remittance of freight of vessel chartered by a PSU. So, then you require this Ministry of Surface Transport and all. All these 3 points are only for PSUs. So, not for private companies and all that. Then the third one also same. Payment of imports through ocean transport by a government department on a CIF basis, other than FOB or FAS basis and all. So free alongside the ship and all that. So there were different freight alongside and all that. Let's not get into it. We can't discuss so depth and all. But all these PSUs, they need to take the permission of Ministry of Surface Transport. And multimodal transport operators, say, basically the tour operators. Multimodal transport operators is nothing but, just to give you an example, somebody will announce that, let's say, Europe trip. Now, $80,000 per person or something like that, or 3 lakh rupees per person, we can do that. But how they will take you? They say, come by flight, then you will be given a car, then you will be taken by flight, or some places you will be taken by metros and all that. So that way, they will take care of it. You are making the payment to this one agency, but they will be making the payment for multiple transport facilities, road, rail, navy and all that. That way, multimodal transport operators, so if these are the agents or to their agents abroad, then you have to take this registration of a certificate from the Director General of Shipping. So, and then remittance of hiring charges. This is the most important one. He will keep asking. So whose approval I need to take? And this transponders are nothing but whenever the TV channels are there, you see that vans and the top of it, some satellite receivers and all. That is what is transponders. Earlier, India never had money to buy it, so we used to take it on hire. Now we are having transponders ourselves. Things have changed. But in the earlier days, very few channels were offered to take this, and that too, since they are all very expensive, so they will receive, because from the spot, they will transmit to their through the satellite, it will go live. So that is what are the transponders. So if TV channels are hiring, then they have to take it from Ministry of Information Broadcasting, or if it is for internet service providers who are providing it, then they will take it from Information Technology, Communication and Information Technology, but you require approval. And remittance of container detention charges exceeding the rate prescribed by the Director General of Shipping. That is, this detention charges, you exported something, then your material got struck at the customs, and it has stayed for more than a certain period, then you got to pay for the detention charges. So anything you are paying more than the rate, then you have to take the approval of Ministry of Surface Transport. It is just like you have to look at it and look at what is the whose approval I need it. Then take 1 star or 2 stars to this prize money one. He is asking it. Remittance of prize money or sponsorship or sports activity abroad by persons other than international, national or state level sport bodies. Indirectly, to cut it short, if you want to conduct any tournament outside India, or you want to sponsor a prize money and all that, if you are a national body, that is you belong to a like BCCI and National Kabaddi Sports Center and all that, likewise any international, national or state level sport bodies, now Olympic bodies and all that, they can remit. But other than that, as a private person, you want to sponsor this prize money, that too when it exceeds $1 lakh, then you got to take the permission of HRD, particularly from the Youth Affairs Sports Division and all, you got to take this approval. And the last one, remittance of membership of P&I club. So yeah, wherever you are taken a membership in that, then you got to take the approval of Ministry of Finance and all this. So the questions are also very simple and straightforward. Like here, look at it here. If you see some of the questions, you will relate direct. Just you read and apply. That's all. Very rarely you will have to interpret and all that. Now, referring to the provisions of FEMA, state the kind of approval required for the following transactions. $5,000 for remittance towards hiring charges of transponders. So whenever there is a hiring charges of transponders, then you have to see whose approval you require. So it falls within this second schedule. So therefore you need to take the approval of the central government. But in the central government, whose approval? That is what you have to see. So if it is transponders, then by that's what we have seen. Some cases, it may be by TV channels or it may be by internet service providers. Depending on that, you take it. Then P requires $2,000 for payment related to callback services. Now, permitted or not permitted? Prohibited. Now, just try to think of it. What are the other prohibited transactions? Example, lotteries, racing and riding, callback services, and these are the major ones which you have to remember as prohibited services. That's all. It will be simple. Even you look at this May 2025, the latest questions of it. Now, Dr. Ronak Mosed, a renowned lyricist and a folk singer, wants to perform with his musicians across the world on a cultural tour. So, wherever you want to go for a cultural tour, now whose approval you require? Ministry of HRD, that's all. So, Department of Education and Culture, straight point. Then, this Ronak has inquired, I am cutting short on this in the interest of time. Now, from you that, for which of the following purposes he is allowed to draw foreign exchange? Now, for his own travel to Nepal, we will discuss that we haven't come to the third point, third schedule. And second one, remittance of 50,000 out of lottery winnings. Can you send for lottery winnings? No. It comes under which schedule? First schedule, which is prohibited. Then remittance for purchase of sweepstakes. Not permitted, any gambling related. And third one, gift of $10,000 to his brother in Canada. We will have to come to this first one and last one. We didn't discuss that yet. So it comes in third schedule. So this travel and all, we will, once we cover, you will be able to answer to it. So let's complete this schedule 3 and then we will go back to that. So going back to it, we are discussing on current account transactions. Now you tell me as a definition, what do I mean by current account transaction? One simple definition. Other than capital account transaction. How many schedules are there in current account transaction? 3 schedules. What are that schedule? Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. What does Schedule 1 deals with? Prohibited services. What is Schedule 2 deals with? Approval of central government. And what is Schedule 3 deals with? RBI's approval. So, and this topic if you complete, then the capital account transactions is very light and limited. But this is where you are almost like I would say all the questions are from these two topics, from PRII, PROI and capital account, this current account transactions. Very rarely you will get questions on this capital account transactions. Now, Schedule 3, where you require RBI's approval. Now, in this, the provisions are different for individuals and the provisions are different for organizations. For individuals, what all you can take? Now, actually, the way to read, I will tell you. For all this listed, like say, for example, gifts or donations and private visit to country and all that, you want money. Whenever you want money for your private visits, private travel, not for employment, not for all this, simple tours and travels, whenever you go to any country, you need to take the approval of RBI. That is a requirement. But because many people keep visiting the Singapore and Dubai and all that, every day people will be visiting in hundreds. So can everybody go to RBI, and is the RBI having time to start looking at all their validity of passports, everything? That is where earlier, yes, but the logic also I will tell you. In the olden times, like 1960s and 70s, as I said, we never had foreign exchange surplus. So when the available foreign exchange is very limited, government want to use that foreign exchange to buy certain raw materials which is helpful for industry and all. But as such, we had very limited foreign exchange, and somebody happily want to go to Singapore with family and enjoy. So then you can't say don't enjoy. You have money, you have to enjoy. But it is a scarce item. So then you have to take RBI. Then RBI will see how many visits are you making. If you have already gone 2 times, they'll say, no, you are wasting too much of foreign currency. We will not give approval. Likewise, this LRS and all came much later. Earlier, it's a simple logic. Whenever we have limited foreign currency, then whenever you are using it, you should be sensible in using it. There is a scarcity. That is why for all these cases, whenever you want to remit money to your relatives abroad and all that, or whenever you want to take medical facility abroad and all, government used to ask, when all other people are struggling, then why you want to go abroad and take the medical facility? When we don't have foreign currency. Now, this benefit will be to you alone. But if I use that foreign currency, limited scarce currency to import something, then it is going to help the country. That is how all these were widely restricted by RBI. In fact, in 1960s and 65s and all that, RBI, it is very hard to get the approvals for these cases. RBI is to say, we don't have that much of foreign currency, don't waste for individual purposes. That was a logic. But with the softwares, MNCs coming into picture and India getting into software industry, now we got plenty of foreign reserves. So now we have so many foreign reserves. Now India is actually we are having positive reserves. That's where now the government has become liberal. That is what is this liberalized remittance scheme and all that. So under that, they said, I have so much money. So now you don't have to come and ask me everything. If you want, and India is having so much money that now they are saying at individually, if you want to remit up to $250 per annum, you don't even come to me. Spend it. We have enough money, enough reserves to it. So that way, the whole dynamics of the Schedule 3 changed because of this MNCs coming into picture. So coming back, you do study all this, private visits to country, give donation and all. Earlier, for everything, every dollar you want to buy, you have to take the permission of RBI. But because now we have got plenty of foreign reserves, RBI is simply saying, up to $250, don't even come to me. So you can happily spend without asking. So indirectly, what you want to remit for these purposes is up to $250. You don't have to take RBI's approval. It is deemed to have been given. Just that you have to file certain declarations. That's all. You don't need any approval from RBI. It is deemed approved. So just that you have to set in for a track of it, because since there is $250 per person per financial year, you need to maintain a track. So for that purpose, you have to file some documents. But approvals are not rejected. It's deemed approval. So that is what is this LRS scheme. Then, what are the points that are covered here? Private visits to any country except Nepal and Bhutan. Think logically, okay, you can buy head, but think logically, they are allowing you to go to travel even to Pakistan, but not to Nepal. Why you require RBS permission to go for a tour to Nepal, but not to Pakistan? Because you have more security threat from countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh. And that time, in fact, we used to even wage wars and the situation was more hostile and all that. But Nepal, Pakistan, we are okay. You can, RBI may give. But Nepal, you can't. Because in Nepal and Bhutan, our Indian currency itself is accepted. So you want to go to Nepal tour, you can happily carry our INR. Why do you want to buy dollars? So that is why they used to say not permitted. If you want to go to Nepal, then don't ask me for foreign currency because you can spend INR as freely as possible. That was a logic over there. So for private visits to Nepal, it is not permitted. They won't give you approval. So that is the way how you have to look at it. And gift or donation, take mark it as import star rated. He is asking, you want to gift. Now you want to gift, then you can gift, but you need RBI's approval. Then going abroad for employment. So whenever you are going abroad, you have to pay some money and settlement and all that. You have to stay there. You have to stay in hostels for some time and all that. Take money because you're going abroad. You need to buy some foreign dollars and all that, foreign currencies like dollars or Australian dollars or USDs. Do that. And immigration and maintenance of close relatives abroad. Travel for business, travel for business or attending conferences and all, and expenses in connection with medical, and then studies abroad. So in all this, okay, we can read on all this other current account, but the left hand side where I have written 1, 2, 3, see them. For these three purposes, the way to look at it is, normally for all these purposes, up to $250, you don't require RBI approval. You can happily send it under LRS scheme. But for these three purposes, the money that you may have to spend may be more than $250. So even if it is more than $250, as long as you have proper documentation, that is, say for example, for medical treatment. Now, if you have sufficient quotation by the hospital or for studies abroad, if you have the quotation from the university that your study course will cost you $3 lakh, if you have the sufficient documents, you can remit even higher amount. So the 1, 2, 3 are, you are permitted to remit even more than 250 provided you have sufficient backup documents. That is what is the way how you have to look at it. And how he will ask you is a simple one only. Like say, Rohan, an Indian resident individual, desires to obtain foreign exchange for the following purpose. First one, $120 for studies abroad. Now you tell me, studies abroad will come in which schedule? That is how you have to look at it. It is like studies abroad. Will it come in schedule 1, schedule 2 or schedule 3? So if you look at it, the 8th item. So all your gamble, so all that you have to be cautious is from exam perspective, whenever he is giving a scenario, the first thing that you have to look at it is which schedule will it become. So that is why even when you are reading it, you need to identify certain stock points which will come in schedule 1 to avoid, because you can't remember all those points, you can't write on the back side, keep checking and all that. So this is where your practice is required. Which points will come in schedule 1, which points will come in schedule 2, which points will come in schedule 3. So that is going to alter all your answers. Then gift. So similarly, gift also will come over in this third schedule. So you got, the way to read this is, got to spend some time. What all will come in schedule 1, what all will come in schedule 2, and what all will come in schedule 3. And if I am in your place as a student, going through all your scanners, make a list of it. Now whatever is frequently asking, repeat it. If it says gifts, then gifts will come under schedule 3. And under schedule 3, how much I can spend? I can spend up to $250 easily without that. So under LRS scheme. Likewise, and studies abroad, it will come. And immigration services, now it will come in schedule 3. So that is how you have to practice whenever you are, reading in detail for it. So questions are, like you are seeing, 99% just a straight one and all that. So that's all. Now, come back here. So in schedule 3, the simple way to look at it is, Now I'll hold for a minute. I will touch this for 5 minutes. I will explain this. Then we will go for a break. And again, we will continue with this FEMA. Now, look at here. Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 are simple. And Schedule 3 is slightly lengthy. I wouldn't say complicated, it is lengthy. Now, what you have to remember is, first you have to remember these 8 points. That is, what all will cover here. Private visits, gifts and donations, going abroad for employment, immigration, and maintenance of close relatives, that is out-of-pocket expenses of your children and parents and all that, and travel for business, attending conferences and all, and expenses in connection with medical treatment and studies abroad. Among this, the star rated ones are the ones which he is asking frequently. Gifts, medical treatment, studies abroad. All this will come in your Schedule 3. For this, now you tell me. For Schedule 3, whose approval you require? RBI's approval. But you don't require RBI's approval up to what amount? $250 per person per financial year. So, this is what it is. But now slowly additional points you have to get into it. So this is a generic provision. For these 8 services, I can take up to $250. I don't even require RBI's approval. It is deemed approval, but I have to file certain declarations for getting visas and all. That's fine. But I don't require. But for 3 services, I can remit even more than $250. What are the 3 points? Immigration, medical treatment, and studies abroad. For these 3 points, I can remit even more than $250, provided I have got sufficient backup documents. That is the point number 1 that you talk about. Then, this second additional point that you see is, look at the one that is taken to the top. Take 3 stars to it. Nowadays he is asking this more because this kind of situations have come more. That is, I think I have taken a. This is the rule of it, to put it in a simple way. That is, you are a resident, but not permanently resident in India. That if you take this small note, it will help you. So, because he is asking this, and I'll keep it to the top. The note that you see here. What here is asking is, you are a resident, but not permanently resident in India. Meaning, when I become a resident, like I will narrate it in a simple way so that you can directly talk about. See, if you go to high-tech city areas and all that, you see a lot of foreigners working in India. Now, expatriates, whom we call in a technical language, but don't want to confuse you with that. So, foreigners working in India. Now, under income tax, they may be a foreigner and non-resident, that you have to analyze. But under FEMA, it is simple. Even if you have not stayed in India in the previous year for 180, but once you have come back to India for employment, you are a PRII. That's all. So, now that is how we are a resident. But you are not permanently resident, meaning you are come to employment, but not more than 3 years. You have come on a deputation for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. Then you come under this resident, but not permanently resident. So there is a third category. Apart from resident and non-resident, you got a third category. Resident, but not permanently resident. That is the people who have come to India on employment, but for less than 3 years. So then what they can take? So what FEMA says is, because you have come for a short trip, whatever the salary that you have got here, you take back your salary. We have no problem. But your remittance should not be more than your net salary. So that is what it is. Because you have come for a short period. I will explain how it differs. Say there is a foreigner. He is working, say, for Microsoft, expatriate in India. For last 8 years, he is like, take the other way around. Many of our IT guys who are from Hyderabad and all that, they go to US, they start doing jobs. First few years is a tough time for them. They try to balance and all that. But after 6-7 years, they will be able to save some money. And these guys are buying houses, buying vehicles, all that. Likewise, imagine a mirror side of it. A foreigner coming into India, and because he is working for 8-9 years, like in ICRISAT and all that, there are many foreigners apart from MNCs. So, with that savings, he is invested in real estate. And he bought a property, a flat for 1 crore. After 1 year, he sold it for 2 crore because the property rates have gone up. So then, can he take this profit outside India? That is where this point will come. So, if he is a resident, and not permanent resident, he cannot take that additional money because the government is asking, as such, you are there for less than 2-3 years, where from you got so much of savings. So whatever the salary you have taken, you want to take back, we don't have a problem. But you can't take any profits out of that. Whereas if he is a resident and a permanent resident, almost like that is employment for more than 3 years, obviously you would have savings, and that savings you would have invested in shares, market, real estate, you would have earned some money. You can take not only your salary but also this profit. But you are there here for a temporary purpose, then maximum you can remit is only net salary. That is how we have to look at it. So to conclude, you are a resident but not permanently resident, then the maximum amount you can remit is up to the net salary. That's all. So this is what are the additional point, the second additional point that we are discussing. I will summarize this point and then we'll go for a break, and then I will continue with the remaining points because it gets into other than individuals. So now you tell me, so that you start getting slowly the control. Now, there are two transactions in FEMA. One is capital and second one is current. Which one are we discussing? Current account transactions. What are current account transactions? How do I define them? Other than capital account transactions. Now, for current account transactions, there are 3 schedules to deal in permitted, not permitted. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. Schedule 1 deals with prohibited. Schedule 2 deals with permitted but prior approval of central government. Schedule 3 deals with RBS approval. Where does my LRS scheme comes? $250. Schedule 2 or Schedule 3? Schedule 3. So, Schedule 3 is my LRS. That is where you have common causes. People going for employment, going for medical services, studies abroad. It is all our personal needs. Whereas the Schedule 2 is basically like a professional related, like where people go on cultural tours and all that, or remitting money for prizes. They are not, everybody does it. But Schedule 3, what most of the people are involved in. So that's how logically you can link about it. Now, under Schedule 3, now, do I have to take RBS approval for every remittance I make? Earlier, yes, but now not required. Up to what amount I don't require RBS approval? $250. That is how do I count it? Per person, per financial year. That is how that money is counted. But for 3 services, but for 3 payments, I can send even more than $250. Immigration, medical services, studies abroad. For these 3 cases, I can remit even more than $250, provided there is a backup supporting documents. So, if it is a medical, then there must be a hospital bill that is given and all that, or studies abroad quotation from the university. I can remit more than that. That was the first additional point. Second additional point is resident but not permanently resident. Meaning what? Employment up to 3 years. Then what is the condition? How much he can send maximum? Only net salary. That is what he is not permitted, to get that concept clear. Any profit that he is making out of his investment, that he cannot do it. Any net salary he want to take it, he can take it. But not, it shouldn't include any profit element in that. So this is the additional point that we have covered in it. So let's split for a break of 10 minutes. And after that, I will cover the remaining points and then we will continue with that. So go for a break of 10 minutes. Let's continue. So we were discussing this current account transactions. Now let us refresh it from the beginning, and then I'll come to and I'll start from where we have stopped. Now, there are 2 types of transactions under FEMA. One is a current account transaction. Second one is a capital account transaction. Now, which is defined and which one is depending on the other one? They have defined what are capital account transactions, and current account transactions are other transactions other than capital account transactions. That's how they've summarized. Now, in the current account transactions, there are 3 schedules. Now, Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. Now, what is Schedule 1? Prohibited. And what is Schedule 2? Approval from whom? Central government. And Schedule 3? Approval from RBI. So the Schedule 3 is what we were discussing, and Schedule 3 is different for individuals and different for other than individuals. And this LRS scheme, whatever we are saying, it is basically for individuals. So other than individuals, we need to discuss. So otherwise, what the Schedule 3 says is, there are 8 matters where whenever you want to remit money for these purposes, you need to take the RBS approval. One is a private visits for your country, any country except Nepal and Bhutan, and gifts and donations and gifts abroad for employment and immigration services, maintenance of close relatives abroad, and travel of business or attending conferences. The simple way is, first point and sixth point, if you combine, once you want to go travel, whether it is a personal travel or official travel, it comes in Schedule 3. So the simple way, the broad analysis, that is, if you are going for a professional travel, that is either for business purpose or for attending any meeting or conference and all, it comes under sixth point. But not that you just want to go to enjoy with your family, then it comes under first point. Both are covered. Both are covered. So it is like a travel, either for personal purpose or for official purpose. Both travels are covered over here. So travel, gifts or donation, going abroad for employment, emigration, then medical, and then studies abroad. Out of this, among all these points, what is the limit up to which I don't require RBS approval? $250,000. So, but for 3 points, I can spend even more than $250,000. Immigration, medical treatment abroad, and medical treatment and studies. So for these, I can remit even more than 250,000 provided I have got the sufficient documents. Now, how he can ask questions on that specific points? You look at the question that you see on the top. Or want to get his heart surgery done at United Kingdom, up to what limit of foreign exchange can be drawn by him, and what are the approvals required? Now, for going abroad for medical purposes, do you require central government approval or do you require RBS approval? RBS approval. The reason being, the reason being is simple. That is, it falls under Schedule 3. Now, then how much money I can draw? Generally 250,000, but if it is medical, I can draw any amount without limit, provided there is a medical quote or medical bill supporting documents are there to justify the cost of it. This is how you will get your questions and all that. Now let us come back. But there are 1-2 additional points that we need to look at it. First is this 250,000. The additional point 1. For these 3 services, I can take more than this $250,000 provided I have supporting documents. And additional point 2, if I am a resident but not permanently resident, then I can't take 250,000. So then how much I can take it? I can take it only up to my net salary. So that is how we got to link this. So they won't allow you to spend for 250,000 and all. You can take back your money only up to your net salary. That's all, not more than that. Then when do I be treated as resident but not permanently resident? He is on a deputation to India, or he is doing employment in India for a period less than 3 years. So that is the what. So now we will come to this, the second point, the third exemption, most important one, and where normally you get confused. So facilities for persons other than individuals. Individuals, the 250,000 limit would apply, but for facilities for persons other than individuals. So for persons other than individuals, what is the limit? Though he has given a long list, but if you look at this summary, I suggest the summary would help. So either you can take it, or anyway they are keeping it in this YouTube and all that. You can take a screenshot later. So now I will go to it, because this will give you overview in a simple way. What are this Schedule 3, particularly for persons other than individuals? The first one, donation. So if they want to donate, then they require RBS approval if the remittance exceeds the lesser of these amounts, 1% of foreign exchange earnings during the 3 preceding financial years, or they are $50 lakh. So if it exceeds, then you require RBS approval. Otherwise, it doesn't require. Then the second one, commission to it, the second point, you take 3 stars to it. You got multiple questions based on the second point. So that is commission to agents abroad for sale of residential plot in India. So you are a PROI, but you sold. Now, the second point, this is what he is asking more. So understand, and he is giving in case study form. So I'll elaborate a bit. In this case, what happens is, it's not a foreigner selling in India, need not be the case. It can be a simple case. Like you take, for example, somebody is having a big apartment in a commercial complex, like say maybe 10-storied building. Now, for some reason, he wanted to sell that, like Babu Khan Estates and all that. Now he wanted to sell it. Now, who can buy that? Because since it is a 10-storied building, that in a commercial complex, it may be around 75 crores or 100 crores. Now, who can buy? So a foreigner, only a foreigner can buy. But how do you advertise? If it is in Hyderabad, you release an ad somewhere and you contact local agents. But this much of property, only a foreigner can buy. So when a foreigner want to buy this property, obviously you need to identify an agent abroad. So that is how, when this point will come. I repeat, an Indian want to sell the property in India, but only thing is, because the sale value is very huge and the money is in terms of crores and all, he thought it is better to sell it to NRIs or the foreigners who are ready to buy it at this. But how do I advertise over there? That is where I take the help of, like how if I want to sell my property, I take some real estate consultants here. Now I am taking the agents abroad to identify the buyer abroad. So this is the practical scenario. Once you keep that point in mind, then it will be easy. So now I am an Indian. I want to sell my big commercial complex, but since I'm repeating, since it involves 80 crore or 90 crore, I thought an NRI or a foreigner is more comfortable in buying it because they can spend that money. But how do I know them? Now, I can't call up everyone and find out. That is why I am paying to the agents abroad so that they can identify a NRI buyer and he will come and buy my property here. So that is what it is. But for the agent over there, for helping me identify the buyer, now I want to remit money. So I want to give his commission. When I want to give the commission to the foreign agent, that is when this provision would come into picture. So how much is the maximum commission I can pay to the agent abroad for helping me to identify the buyer for sale of residential plot or any plot? It is limited to, that is, if the remittance is exceeding the higher of 5% of inward remittance or $25,000, then I would need RBI's approval. That is what is the point in it. Now, for a clarity purpose, because since this is the major topic that he is asking, I want you to look at, this is the May 2026 latest question, the latest attempt, sorry, January 26 paper. If you look at this, the first bit that you can see on the top, Synex Limited, incorporated in India, is engaged in the manufacture of lithium batteries for two-wheelers. The company markets its products domestically and exports it to Mexico. So during the financial year, the company engaged in the following transaction. Commission paid to agent in Mexico for the sale of company's commercial plot in India. So the company was having, it is an Indian company, the plot is also in India, but as I said, because of the sale consideration amount and all, they have identified an agent in Mexico to buy it. So now to that agent in Mexico, they want to remit $50,000 as a commission, real estate guy's commission. Now he is asking, can I do that? Now you tell me, go back to that summary. What is the maximum above which I need RBI's approval? 5% of the inward remittance or $25,000. So here, what is the total inward remittance? 9,50,000. So 5% I have to calculate and keep it ready, and then $25,000, whichever is higher. Obviously 5% of 9,50,000 would be higher. That comes to some 47,500 or something. So that is up. If I want to give this commission up to 47,500, I don't need RBI's permission. But what they want to remit is $50,000. So since you want to remit up to $50,000, which is more than the maximum permitted, then you would require RBI's approval. The logic they applied is, see, all this is, people are up to, I'm just giving the logic, because even if you refer to previous year questions, almost 8 to 10 questions you will find in the same order. So it's all the same type of question. That's why instead of limiting to this question, I'm explaining the logic so that you can understand the question with more maturity. So why this 5% is, people are very smart. Now I want to take the money outside India. Now, how do I take? Like people, criminals and all that who are involved in illegal act, all our politicians, they take left, right and center frauds here, but they know that one day they will get caught and CID will go confiscate the bank accounts, but they don't care because what you are taking is not even 1% of it. Like Swiss bank accounts. Now, you can easily connect. Why are people keep it in Swiss bank account and all? You can't touch that money. So, that's why many politicians, they want to take the money out. But how do I take that out? Whenever I want to take that out, the only way is through RBI. RBI will ask me, why are you sending? Now, did you buy anything from there? Then where are the documents? So that is why the simple way they are doing is, he says, there is a property here. I am selling it to my brother and my brother will sell the property to me. So, and I give some foreigner had helped me identify some agent and all there, and in the name of the sales commission agent, I want to give him some 50%, 40% of the money. So, and how much commission I want to give, it is up to me. I can give any amount of commission. So, that's why in India, I'm selling this property. How much commission I should give it to the real estate guy? It is up to me. It is my understanding. If I am in a hurry, I can say, I will give you 10 lakhs. Get me a buyer who want to settle the deal in 2 days time. So likewise, it is up to me. Government don't care all this. They only look at it. Did you deduct the TDS? Did you make that bank payment and all that? But if it is a foreign, in the name of this sales agent and sales commission, because when a foreigner and coming and buying here, it all will be in crores. So in the name of this sales commission and all that, they are taking the Indian money outside. That is why the government, RBI said, you pay commission to any real estate. Up to paying up to 5% is understandable. Normally we will pay up to 1% or 2% to the, even in Indian market, how much you pay for the people who help you sell your property, 2% is the market rate. But still the government had kept 5% and said up to 5% you are paying, it is up to the normal trend. But if you are paying more than 5%, then there is something fishy over there. Maybe you are taking this money outside India and because it is illegal or something like that. Then once it is more than 5%, then you have to take RBI permission. Like in this case, then RBI will start asking, where was the need for you to pay more than 5%? Because the market rate is not 5%, it is actually 2%. But we have given as a government up to 5%. Now you want to pay even more than 5%. What was your problem? Then this guy will go and convince, no, ours is a joint property. The title deeds were, it's a very old building. We never had proper titles. So to convince the buyer, we had to compromise and pay this higher commission. Then they will look at it. What you are saying, is it logical? Is it justifiable? Or maybe you want to say, I want that money immediately because somebody in my family is in hospital. I want immediately some medical treatment and some heart surgery had to be done. I need 1 crore. But that 1 crore immediately you can give, only foreigner can give. Since I wanted more, I didn't look at the commission. He asked for 7%. I said, I'll give, get me a buyer. But I have to convince. So if the RBI is getting convinced, yes, this guy had an urgency, that is why he had to pay more commission, then they will allow. So that is the logic. So by and large, because since this question is a repeat question, just that people keep changing, property keep changing, and now he is saying Mexico, next time it is US and property amount will change. But by and large, whenever you want to pay commission to the real estate guy abroad, you can pay only up to 5% of your selling price, the money that is inward remittance, or $25,000. That's all. So if you want to pay more than that, then you would require RBI's permission. That's all. Then one more advanced question is asking, like if we calculate 5% of 9,50,000, it comes somewhere around 47,000 or 47,500. But I want to remit 50,000. Then he's asking in-depth question. Up to 5% you are allowing. So 47,500 you are allowing. But I want to send 50. So do I have to take permission only for that 2,500 incremental amount, which is above 5%? Or do you have to take permission for all 50,000? So all 50,000 you have to take. So indirectly, people are smart. Say what he can say is up to 5% I can remit without RBI. So 47,500 is remitted directly without telling the government. Now for sending the 2,500, now he has applied to the government. Then the government will say, okay, you want to pay only 2,500, small money, let's give. So that is how the people are smart in fooling the government. That is why they said, once the limit exceeds 5%, then you need the approval for the total amount. So, and you can't remit. Then if at all you have already remitted 47,500 because I am allowed to send up to 5%, then you have not complied with the FEMA, then the government will come and arrest you or they will punish you under FEMA provisions. So, that is whenever you take this, take that as an in a wholesome manner. So that is whenever it is exceeding 5%, then you would need to take the permission for the total amount. So that is the another question, advanced question that you see. That's all. So second, among all these 4 points, second point is the maximum that is being touching. Then consultancy services. Then if at all I want to pay consultancy services, then for what? Say for infrastructure related, I can pay up to $1 crore, or if it is others, then only $10 lakh. Say infrastructure related. Take for example, somebody is constructing a skywalk. So somewhere, like whenever you need some beautiful, like say whenever assembly is constructed. So or airport. Now India has developed a lot of airports in Mumbai and Delhi and all that. Now when you want designs of it, now how to construct airports and all that for futuristic and all that. Generally in India you have very few good airports. That's why you need consultants abroad. So where it's already a developed country, they know what are the feature requirements for cargo, passengers, all that. They can guide you better. In that background, if it is infrastructure related, up to 1 crore you can spend. So you need not take RBS for it. If it exceeds, you need to take. But for any other consultancies, business consultancies and all this, you are running a software company, you want to hire a consultant, then it comes under others. Up to $10 lakh, then it is not required. More than $10 lakh, you require it. And the last one is most negligible asked. Reimbursement of pre-incorporation expenses by an entity. So there was a pre-incorporation expenses. You want to take that money in a phased manner. So that is 5% of investment brought into India or $1 lakh, then no need. If you want to take more than that, then convince RBI. So go to the RBI. What is the hurry for you to take back all that now? So if you can convince, it's all right. They will give. Otherwise, they won't give. So these are all the 4 points that come into question. So I repeat. Under Schedule 3, you got where you require RBI's approval, you got 2 cases. One is for individuals, one is for other than individuals. For individuals, the limit is simple, $250,000, and then you tell me there are 3 situations where you can spend more than $250. What are the 3 situations? Immigration, medical, and studies abroad. You can send even more than $250. That's all. And for one person, one type of person, maximum you can send is only up to net salary. Resident but not permanently resident. That's all. So, and that's all we discussed. And then for persons other than individuals, there are 4 points. Is it donation? Or is it real estate commission? Or is it consultancies? Or is it reimbursement of pre-incorporation? If it is donation, then 1% and all will come, or this $50. You have to remember this. There is no shortcut, you have to remember. And among these 4 points, what is number 1? Most frequently asked is the second point. And next point is the third point. Second and third, if you are good, most of the 90% of the questions you can answer. So this is how this point works. And in this, there is one more additional point in this. That is, if you're, this is why you listen. Otherwise, if you look at from your material, you will not be able to understand. And nowadays, unfortunately, he is asking questions on this. That is, I am outside, whenever I want to send money, but if I am sending money from these 2 accounts, one is RFC account and second one is EEFC account, then I don't require any approval from RBI. No limits, nothing. No 250,000, nothing. Now, logic I will tell you, so that even if it gets it, you will be able to comfortably answer that. RFC account is for resident, that is NRIs, who want to keep it in foreign currency account. Like for example, one Indian Hyderabad guy, software guy. He went to US. He was in US for say 10, 15 years. He had saved a lot of money over there. But because his parents are not good or children, or he wanted to give them some, for some reason, he had moved here. But whenever such people move here, they always think, maybe if things don't work, I will come back to US. With that mindset, they come. So he want to get that money here. Whenever they are coming over here, now he won't convert into INR. He want to keep it in foreign currency. So that is what is this first point. And the second point, EEFC account, he is an Indian entity, but who would be receiving money in foreign currency? Like for example, the people, some of the restaurants, big hotels and all in Delhi. So now, like Taj and all that, they will have a lot of foreign delegates who are coming and all. For a lot of foreigners keep coming, like in Goa and all that. The resort people and all who are running, foreigners come. Every time you can't ask them to pay in rupees and all that. So your business nature is such that where in you will be receiving a lot of foreign currencies. Then first you have to take an approval. Before opening EFC account, you have to take approval from the RBI. RBI will see what is the business you are doing, why do you need a foreign currency. So then you have to convince, no, my customers are foreigners and every time I can't ask them to go to this, convert into INR and commit, so they pay. So likewise, if you can convince this RBI, like it's a tourism places and all that, then RBI will allow. So in this account, is an Indian, but the money is in a foreign currency. So indirectly in these two accounts, if you look at it, Indian money is not going outside. The money which came from foreign is only going foreign. So that's why India is not bothered. India will get bothered if Indian money is going abroad. Then what do we have here? But if you are getting the money from outside and taking back outside, India is not having any problem because it is not hitting my foreign reserves. So to that extent, now that is the logic. But now the provision is, any of these payments outside whatever we talked about, that is the commission to the agent, real estate agent and all that, if the remittance is made from RFC account or EFC account, no approval is required. For simple reason, this is the money not come from outside. Now you want to take it outside. India doesn't bother about it. You brought it from outside, you are taking it outside. We don't bother about it. That is the logic. So indirectly for these cases, any amount you can remit without any approval, need for the approval from the RBI and all that. Then one more additional points, considering the latest trend of questions. Look at, because unless you patch up yourself with these kind of additional points, there is no use of studying. So now all the latest trend of question 24, 25 and all are laced with this additional concept. Now limit of $250, is it for current account transactions or capital account transactions? There is a clarity providing on LRS scheme. It is for both. That is, you can use it for current account transactions or you can use it for capital account transactions. Combined limit is $250,000 per person per financial year. That is how the limit works. But then the second point is the most important point and interesting point. Listen to it and I'll show you the 2026 question also. Clubbing with the family members. That is, in a family, there are wife and husband and then 2 children. 4 people are there. Now, individually you said $250,000. But father himself want to remit up to $7 lakh. But his limit as an individual is $250,000. But within the family, wife is not sending. But she is eligible to send $250,000, but she is not sending. So indirectly, can I take the benefit of, can I combine all my families, club and utilize, one person utilize the total amount? That is what is this clubbing family. So can I club? Because my father may have to spend more money, children don't have to spend money. So can I go for it? First of all, this clubbing is permitted only when all are Indian residents. So that is the point number 1. But once all are Indian residents, then look at the second point. For current account transactions, it is permitted. For capital account transactions, it is not permitted. Now, to avoid confusion, I will tell you. But in the above table, I said it is for both current and capital. Now we are saying for capital, it is not permitted. Clubbing is not permitted for capital account transactions. But as an individual, you can send $250,000 even for capital account transactions. So individually, transaction-wise, it's all right. But when it comes to clubbing, Capital account transactions, it is not permitted with a condition. When it will be permitted, if they happen to be co-owners, then they permit. If they are not co-owners, then they don't permit. Putting it in a simple example, if husband want to buy a property abroad and he want to buy it only in his name, then he can send only up to 2,50,000. He can't take the limit of his wife and club it and send $5 lakh. Not permitted. But if the house is bought in wife and husband name, if they are co-owners, then both the limit can be used. So, putting it in a simple way, can I club for capital account transactions? You can club for capital account transactions only if they happen to be co-owners. That's all. So, if they are not co-owners, you can't spend it. And I request you to keep a sight of this and remember, because in the latest questions, this is what is being tested. So, and this is where you get your marks or lose your marks. So, now I repeat. Now you tell me, what is the maximum LRS amount that I can remit without RBI's approval? 2,50,000. How do I apply it? It is per person per financial year. That is how I apply to it. Then, when I talk about this per person per annum limit and all that, then comes the question: is it only for current account or capital account? Both. But can I club this with the family members? Clubbing is permitted for what transactions? Current account transactions. But clubbing is not permitted for capital account transactions. But capital account transactions also clubbing is permitted if they are happen to be co-owners. Now, to make you understand this, let us look at, because the latest question is the best example where you can read and understand. Now, the same. See the questions. These are all, that's why I was alerting. Now, look at this question. Bob, a director at Senex Limited, along with his wife, major son and father, purchased a property in Mexico, holding equal shares in the property. So, this person, he bought a property with equal shares with his wife and major son and his father. So, 4 people are buying the property in a common name with equal shares. Now, they collectively remitted $10 lakh during the financial years. Now, during the financial year, Bob confirmed that all family members complied with the applicable terms and conditions, and the amount sent is within the prescribed limits. He says, if each one can send up to $2,50,000, and we are 4 people, so $2,50,000 into 4, $10 lakh. But the $10 lakh collectively they have sent it. Maybe from father account it was $8 lakh and major son maybe 1 lakh. So the equation was not actually 2,50,000. Indirectly they have clubbed and sent this $10 lakh. Now that is where the question can come. Can they club here? Can they club here? That is what is the question. Because whatever he had to tell you is over. Now it is only the ask. That is, examine whether Bob and his family members can remit $10 lakh to Mexico for a single financial year without requiring approval. Now, this is where you go one step backwards. Under LRS, what is the amount that I am having the limit? $2,50,000. And that is per person per financial. Can clubbing, first of all, the $2,50,000, can I use it only for current or even for capital? Even for capital. Then can I club with my family members? Yes. Current account, no doubt, yes. But for capital account, only when they are co-owners. Now, in the case that you are looking at it, it is about clubbing. So you got to look at it, is it current account or a capital account? If it is a current account, nothing. Closely with blind eyes, you can say that yes, just go ahead and club. But it happened to be a capital account transaction. So for capital account transaction, what is the additional requirement that you have to see? Are they co-owners? Now, are they co-owners here? Look at it and tell me. Read that and tell me, are they co-owners? So the second line is very clear. They are holding equal shares. So because they happen to be co-owners and it is a capital account transaction, clubbing is permitted. So how many people are then? You have to look at the amount. 2,50,000 per person. But how many people are there? the director, his wife, son, and his father. So 4 people. So 4 people into 2 lakh 50, 10 lakh dollars. So you can send without requiring the any need for approval. So this is how you will have to get. So if you go back and look at your FEMA, all the hard work you have to do is understanding and by hearting what are the prohibited transactions and what are the schedule 2 transactions, because schedule 3 is easy. Schedule 3 is dominated by your $250,000 provisions LRS scheme, and in the LRS scheme, as I said, generally $250,000 you can spend. The additional points, now you hope you are comfortable in schedule 3. Now you tell me for what transactions I can remit even more than 250. Immigration, medical treatment abroad, and studies abroad, provided I have the documentation. That's all. So I can spend it. And one more additional point. Resident but not permanently resident. Then how much I can send? Up to the net salary is what I can send. Then we get into this. Okay, all these are for individuals. Then what about other than individuals? So other than individuals, that is where we have talked about and we have summarized 4 points. Among that 4 points, the biggest 2 points which he is asking, the topmost point what he is asking is real estate agents. So from India, whenever I want to send to agent abroad, now you tell me what is the maximum I can send is 5% of the inward remittance and USD dollars. When he says inward remittance, what is this inward remittance? Is nothing but when I sold the property, I got the money. The seller would have given the money. So how much has he given the money? So that is what it matters. Now, I will tell you a simple example. Look at carefully, because this is the probable extension that can happen. There is A and he is having a plot in Chennai. Say, he is an Indian, he is an PRII. Just imagine. Now, he is having a big apartment, commercial complex in Chennai, which he wanted to send it. So, he identified one broker in US and this guy has identified one NRI over there. Now, who is ready to buy this flat in Chennai? The deal was set at, let's say, 100 crores. The deal was set at 100 crores. But the agreement was, since this guy, A, also stayed earlier in US and he just came back. And for last 3 years, he's here because his mother is sick and all. But he didn't sell his house. So what he requested this NRI is, this 100 crore is ready to sell, registration and all done. But he said, I will give me 70 crore in US, deposit in the US account, and to India, send me 30 crore. That is what is the deal of it. So what I am trying to say here is, my overall sale is 100 crore, but out of that 100 crore, 70 crore is transferred by the US guy in US, and the 30 crore is only sent to India. Now when I say 5%, do I take 5% on 100 or do I take 5% on 30? 30. So just to give you practical, because you are students, you have not seen this kind of world. So what is this inward remittance? You may get confused. So that's why when he says 5% of inward remittance, don't remember it like 5% of sale consideration. No, out of sale consideration, particularly these NRIs, they will not send all the money here. These guys will request, don't send me, because if I have to take it from here, again RBI, all these issues will come. I will give you one foreign account, you deposit there itself and send me only the balance amount. That's why what is permitted for you is what you actually brought into India. It has nothing to do with your sale consideration. So this point, as of now, we has not touched, but there is a possibility. It is very close, slightly extended version of what you are already studying. So that's where be careful with regard to this provision. That's all. And then going back to this in the schedule for others, donation and consultancies and reimbursement of pre-incorporation and all. And clubbing provisions, the next important one. And clubbing provisions, it is allowed for capital and current account transaction. But for capital it is not permitted. For current account it is permitted. But for capital account also it would become permitted if they happen to be the co-owners. Now, these accounts I want you to remember, because you are not used to all this bank accounts and all that, but no choice. If the remittance is made from two accounts, RFC account or EFC account, no approval from RBI is required. The logic is simple. These two accounts, the money is received in foreign currency by a foreigner. So, since it is the foreign money you are taking foreign, we don't have any problem. So RBI don't want to get into it. That is the logic behind it. So from this, without bothering about 2,50,000 or 5% or whatever, any amount you can remit from these accounts and all this. That is what is the limit up to this. Then with this current account transactions would come to an end. Then capital account transactions. This capital account transactions, we have already discussed the definition. Now you tell me, what are all capital account transactions? 2 points. Assets or liabilities in India controlled by PROI, and assets, liabilities and contingent liabilities outside India controlled by PRII. So that is what will become current account, this capital account transactions. Now, I will tell you from exam perspective what you need to be good with. So now the summary of, so this subset, section 6 deals with the capital account transaction. And if you look at this subsequent, the subsections and all that within section 6, there are 6 subsections. The first one, you may sell or draw through AP. That is, capital account transactions can only AP. That is, authorized person is only allowed to buy or sell even for capital. Whether it's a capital or current account, only authorized person is allowed to buy or sell. That is a negligible point. The probable MCQ that can come here is between 2 and 2A. Now, you can make out, when they have said 2A, it is an amended version. So, that itself, otherwise it would have been with 3, 4 and all that. So, it's a slight amendment, not a very recent amendment, but there is an amendment. What they say is, any capital account transactions involving debt instrument. So, is different, and other than debt instrument is different. Any capital account transaction other than debt instrument, like purchasing the buildings and all this kind of stuff, then central government approval is required. So, but if it is a debt instrument, then RBI want to keep a hold on it. So, RBI may specify certain, because since it is a debt instrument, RBI want to hold on it. But if it is other than debt instrument, then central government will hold. So, a probable MCQ question, capital account transactions, then whose approval I have to take? Then if it is a debt related transaction, then RBI's permission. Other than debt related, debt instrument, then I have to take central government's permission. That's all. And then what is permitted here is PRII holding foreign immovable property outside India. That is a question, I'll put that in a simple. 4 and 5, you look at it. 6 is a negligible one. You can ignore it. 4 and 5, I will tell you. Putting it in a student language fast. Can NRI buy a property in India? Similarly, can an Indian, like say tomorrow somebody told, because your son is abroad, just imagine, or your friend is working abroad. Now some house in US come for a sale. Now that guy is a distress sale or something like that. He's selling at a cheap. Your friend told you, if you want to buy, you can buy. So now the question comes, being in India, can you buy a house in US? Putting it in a more student friendly language. That is what is this 4th point. That is, PRII, can he hold an immovable property outside India? Can an Indian buy a flat in US? That is what it is. Maybe he told, don't worry, you buy it, I will manage, we will give it for rent, you will get good money. Whenever there is a sale, I will deal with that. I am here, you make some money. So your friend is helping. So you are only transferring money. So that way, as an Indian, can you buy a property in US? That is what is the question. That one, it will be permitted if the same was acquired when he was PROI or inherited by PROI. What do you mean? Did you understand the 4th point? Can an Indian, I will put it in a simple way so that you can also answer in a simple way. Can an Indian buy a flat in US? Can he hold the property? He is talking about holding. Now, can he hold a property in US? Now you have become PRII, you have come to India. Now, can you still hold that property in US? You can hold it provided you bought it when you are in US. That is, when you are PROI, you bought it. Take a simple example. There is a guy in Hyderabad, tech guy. He is working in, say, TCS here. Now, out of opportunity, he went to US and he worked there for 5 years. And because he worked there for 5 years, he bought a small apartment over there. After that, for some family reasons, he has come back to India. Now he want to be in India. But the house he bought it, where he had stayed in US, he wanted to hold it. He don't want to sell it. Now, can he, that is what the question comes. Can this PRII hold the asset which is in US? The answer is you can hold provided you bought that when you are PROI. So, or you are inherited from PROI. Indirectly, simply sitting in India, like people like us who were never a PROI, I can't buy a house in US. That is not permitted. But if I was in US for some time, maybe on job or something, at that time I bought a house in US, that I can hold. So indirectly, an Indian cannot purchase. But if he has already purchased when he was in US, he can hold. He need not sell and come back. So that is the small sensible point that you need to understand. Similarly, can a PROI hold a property in India? He is no longer staying in India. Can he still hold a property in India? Same logic applies. Provided he bought the property when he was PRII. That is why most of our NRIs who have gone abroad, as per FEMA, they are completely PROI. But majority of them are still holding their ancestral properties here. So, because then you are not a PRII, because normally the simple rule is a foreigner will not be allowed to buy any property in India. So, because otherwise what will happen? They come, they start all the property, they start dominating. Then we Indians have nowhere to go. So, it can happen. That is why the government of India is very tough, very strict. So, in that background, can a PROI hold a property in India? He can hold it if he has acquired it when he was in PRII. So, that's all. So, by hearting, you cannot get hold on it. If you think logically, you can get hold on this 4 and 5 points. It's just a mirror image of it. That's all. Then the additional point that probably I want you to read and understand is this last one. What are the prohibited transactions for capital account transactions? So that is under capital account transactions. What are the prohibited ones? So the first one, no person shall undertake or sell or draw foreign exchange to or from an AP for any capital account transaction. They call it CAT. So, and exception is PRII may draw up to 2,50,000. I will simplify. That is, can I draw foreign exchange or can I remit foreign exchange myself? So, if it is up to 2,50,000, because 2,50,000 is our LRS. Is LRS scheme applicable for capital account transactions? The answer is yes. So, it is applicable. So, up to 2,50,000, it is fine. But even that one, that remittance of 2,50,000, it will not be permitted to be made with non-cooperative countries. That is, can I hold a property, just now we said, can I hold a property in US when I am an Indian? If you bought it over there, you can do it and all. Likewise, there are certain countries which are designated as non-cooperative countries. So, or non-cooperative territories, some islands and all, they are not countries but territories, whatever it is. But if it is declared by FATF, that is the Financial Action Task Force, saying it's a non-cooperative country. Like for example, for Pakistan, India is a non-cooperative country, and for India, Pakistan is a non-cooperative country. So, that status is given so that now an Indian cannot buy any property in Pakistan and Pakistan cannot buy any property in India. The normal PRII, PROI rule is not applicable to Pakistani guys. So, because it is declared as a non-cooperative country, that way, whatever we discussed 2,50,000 and you can hold when you are PROI, all that are okay if the country's relations are good. But if it is declared as a non-cooperative country, you are not allowed to send even this $2,50,000. So, not permitted. More than that, this second list is what you may get a question. Very rare. If you look at it, first of all, capital account transactions is not asking much, except that clubbing and all that, which is also linked to it. But otherwise, this PROI is prohibited from making investments in India in these things. That is, PROI will not be allowed to make investments in chit funds, Nidhi, agricultural plantation activities, real estate business, construction of farmhouses, trading or transferable development rights. I'll give a simple example to make you understand. You take all our MNC companies. Now you take Oracle, you take Dell, you take HP, which is in high-tech city. Who is the parent company? Now parent company is in US. So what is that US entity status? That status is PROI, but they are investing in India. So a PROI can invest in India, but not in these areas. Like say, he can come and invest in business. That is why all these high-tech cities and all that, all these companies, foreigners have invested. So that is permitted. But in these areas, foreign people cannot come and do. In IT field, yes. In business, yes, it is permitted. That's how you have to view it for proper understanding. But PROIs will not be allowed to invest in chit fund business, Nidhi business, or agricultural plantation activities, or real estate, or construction of farmhouses, particularly agricultural plantation. That he may ask you. A foreigner want to buy some land in, because this agricultural plantation, not that foreigner want to come and start working in the farms here. What he is trying to say is, in states like Punjab and all, holding agricultural land is a rich status. It generates a lot of money. So in those cases, an NRI or a PROI want to buy the land, agricultural land, and give it for lease to Indians and all that. It is not allowed, because it will affect the farmers a lot. So once once the foreigner is entering into this business, then they will become 100% commercial. So in that background and all that, they can come and do business in IT field. They can come and do business in other business, but not in two big businesses. One is the real estate, second one is agriculture. So these two businesses are no to for investment to the foreigners. So that is how you can simply remember that. So, and then the last point with Korea. Though we all are Korea fans and all this kind of stuff, the serials and all, but we don't enjoy good relations with Korea. So North Korea, nobody in the world is having any relation. So we don't know confusion on South Korea or North Korea. North Korea, nobody will have relations except Putin. That's all. And this, what we are talking about is the South Koreans. So they hate Indians. You know that. So you would have seen multiple things. They hate Indians. They don't allow Indians. They don't rent their properties to Indians. They downgrade. And for decades, we have accepted that humiliation. Okay, you don't do it, but whenever they come here, we give them all that celebrity status, and we subscribe to all their BTS and all that. We do all that. We make them rich, but we don't. They don't allow us. So they don't allow even our actors to act in any of their films. So they downgrade us. So that is why now it's a modern India. Now we don't accept that humiliation. So that's where they said that PRII shall not take any capital account transactions with Korea. So, and if you have already taken, there is a long notification, so it's irrelevant. But they've given a cutoff time and said, withdraw that money. So now, no business ties with Korea and all that. So apart from all this, the prohibited transactions out of capital, among capital transactions, 2 points I want you to remember. One is the agriculture sector, and second one is the real estate sector. So there, MNCs are, understanding in a student language, MNCs are not permitted to get into these two things. So, but whereas all other businesses, IT business, as I said, and tires business, cars business, like Maruti Suzuki. Now, Maruti is an Indian, Suzuki is a foreigner. Likewise, Hero Hondas and all that. Foreigners are there in every other sector, motor vehicle sector and all, but not in these two sectors. So, they are not permitted. So, this is, what is this? FEMA and all that. Since the discussion was so long, and this chapter is such a chapter, you revise. And after revision, where are you? You are at back square one. So your mind will not give you any points that, okay, you have upgraded to level 2, level 3. After all this, where are you? Still the confidence levels are the same. That's how it will affect you. But don't worry, you will be able to manage, and just the mind will continue to put pressure like this, but don't listen to it. At the end of it, as I said, for confidence building, you start analyzing in a simple way. What is that I have to learn here? One is PRII and PROI, and for that, 3 criterias. What was the stay in the previous year? what is the purpose, and how long was it. That's all. Once you analyze, you can conclude on PRI, PROI. Only additional point is people who are going for higher studies. So even if it is for a finite period, it will be treated as infinite and they would become PROIs. That's an additional point. And then capital account transaction and current account transaction. In the capital and current account, and most of your 90% of the content is in the current account transactions. In the current account, there are 3 schedules: prohibited, permitted by central government, permitted by RBI. And in these 3 schedules, you got 90% of the content in schedule 3. So which are the cases, what are the exemptions, and for individuals, for other than individuals, clubbing provisions, and is it for capital and all that. So once you have a picture of it, then it will not be so scary. But nevertheless, whenever you are expecting, expect up to 60% of the marks, because the syllabus is such that, and the transactions nature is such that suddenly you may not be able to understand what he is asking. So it requires little more matured business mind even to understand this, apart from by hearting. So but 40% you can give it off, but 60% you can manage. 60% of the questions are going to be straightforward. All that is, you have to by heart what is there in schedule 1, what is there in schedule 2, and what is there in schedule 3. That's all. So with this, FEMA will come to an end. And since in the limited time, whatever it is possible and all that, let's discuss this accounts of companies. And more than accounts of companies, I will touch upon the topic where you may get a little, I will come to it. See, where normally you may get confused. Let's try to cover those concepts, because some of this audit and auditors and all that, okay, you have to read, but you are comfortable in reading. Now, companies incorporated outside India. Now, this is a latest topic, that is, it has been 3 years that it is included in the new syllabus. Before that, it was not there. So don't get misled by the number of questions that are asked in the suggested, because this topic was never there at the inter level and all that. It was not there even at the final level. So therefore, you see limited questions, but most of them are latest questions. So now in this companies incorporated outside India, I will try to summarize how you need to look at it. And questions are simple, I would say. And mostly in this chapter, as a smart student, you should know what you have to read and what you should not read. So, and what you have to read is only 40% of the content. 60% of the content you don't have to read, and he is not going to ask you questions. So, I will focus on that 40% which you have to read and be prepared for this chapter. Now, this chapter number also you need to remember, because in the questions he is using it, chapter 22 and all that, companies incorporated outside India. Now, these are what basically we call them as a foreign company. Now, by definition, you tell me quickly, what do you mean by foreign company? Incorporated outside India and having a place of business in India. Now, whenever you say that one, I'll directly go to the questions so that see here. Now, because these are the questions, what he is asking exactly. Now, a company, look at simple here. A company is incorporated in Malaysia, that is registered in Malaysia, and he has given additional point. Incorporated and registered both are one and same. So you can ignore. So there is no difference. It's all one and same. And it is registered, incorporated outside India. Look at the additional point. They've developed patient database for a hospital in India, but the server is in Malaysia. Otherwise, learning the definition of foreign company, it's a child's play. So anybody will understand. So that is incorporated outside India, having place of business. That's been, you have been shouting from foundation. But here you have to go little deep into it. That is, when I said doing business in India, if you look at it, this company is in Malaysia, but they're developing some patient database. That is, they have been given a contract. Any patient come, they scan the documents and they keep it and all that, like Yashodas and all the big hospitals, they're doing it. But where are they storing the data? They're storing the data in a server in Malaysia. Now, do I treat it as business being conducted in India? So that's where, whenever they say business in India, where you are keeping the server, where you are keeping, where you are, all that are irrelevant, but they are working for Indians. So they are working for a hospital in India. Therefore, it is deemed that they are doing business in India. And once you are doing business in India, it becomes a foreign company. Now, the second point, company incorporated in Dubai and no place of business in India, but employs agents in India. That is what he is saying. So, whenever you read this definition, this is the most confusing point I wanted to clarify. Whenever you are having a place of business, either you are having it by yourself or through agent. It doesn't matter. So in that background, this is the common confusion and most of the questions you go wrong. Look at it. A company incorporated in Dubai and no place of business in India, but they have employed agents in India. Agents. So because they are agents, will it become a foreign company, or will it be treated as doing business in India or no business in India? So what the point that you need to take here is, your answer had to be, because in the suggested, even you would have read it, so your answer, you know it, but the logic you need to expand in the answer is, merely because you have appointed agents in India, it would not amount to doing business in India. But if the agents are getting any business for you from India, then it will be treated as business from India. But in the questions he is giving, he is not clear. Now you have appointed agents in India, but agents are in India, but are they getting business from India? Or agents are in India, but they are helping you get the business abroad. So that is what you have to say, that merely appointing agents in India, it will not amount as doing business in India. Therefore, it's not a foreign company. But if that agents are helping the company to get the business in India, then it is a separate point in it. So then it will become a foreign company. Then board meetings held in India. Not. So the additional point, conducting merely board meetings in India will not be treated as doing business in India. But having only share transfer office in India, that is, they are not doing business in India, but they are having only share transfer office. So merely having share transfer office in India, it would amount to business. So these two are contradictory. Conducting board meetings is not a business, but having share transfer office is a business. It becomes a foreign company. But in this case, it will not become a foreign company. Now, in the interest of time, I want to cover this small point, which he is asking again in the examination. What he says is, a foreign company definition, you know, because this is the essence of giving you at your interlevel. Otherwise, foreign company definition you have already studied in chapter 2 itself, here also. Then why are you studying here? There you only discussed on what are foreign companies. But here, you are discussing, once you are a foreign company, what sections will you apply? So, you don't follow entire Companies Act. You follow, as a foreign company, you follow only limited sections. Like I'll just keep it on the top. 382 to 386 and 390 to 393. More than that, that is nothing but your chapter 22. That's all. So, the summary is, if you are a foreign company, what provisions you will follow of the Companies Act? You will follow only chapter 2 of this Companies Act. Entire Companies Act is not applicable. But when entire Companies Act would become applicable, if percentage of 50 or more percentage of shares are held by Indian citizens or Indian companies, then it will be deemed as it is an Indian company, and therefore not only chapter 22 but other provisions of Companies Act also would come into picture. So to repeat it, which sections will you follow of this? If your investment by Indians, either as Indian citizens or Indian corporates, if it is less than 50%, then you will follow only chapter 22. But investment by Indians or by Indian companies is 50% or more, then you will follow not only chapter 22, but the entire provisions of the Companies Act. So, but limited to your, with regard to your business in India. So that is what he is asking it. Just as an example, look at this case study. That is, in this, a company incorporated in Korea. So it is incorporated in Korea, and it has an established branch in Chennai for conducting its business in India. Now the structure of the paid up capital of this is, he has given, they don't have any preference capital. Out of that equity capital, L, Indian citizen is holding 10%, and R, Indian citizen is holding 20%, and the another Indian company, Cosmetics Limited, is holding 20%. So all of them put combining 20 plus 20 plus 10, 50% is held by Indians. Though it is a foreign company incorporated in Korea, but 50% of their capital is held by either Indians or Indian companies. In that background, he is asking, you being a chartered accountant are asked to explain whether this beauty cosmetics shall be deemed to be a foreign company or Indian company. So it is, normally it is incorporated outside India. But even if you are incorporated outside India, but if you are more than 50% or more than 50% of capital is held by Indians or Indian companies, then you are treated, you are deemed to be an Indian company. So that is what it is. And then for the business carried on by it in India, will it be required to comply with the relevant Companies Act? Yes, because since 50% or more is held by the Indians or Indian entities, the entire Companies Act would become applicable to you. So when many questions are being asked simply in this direction, like you see the another one, there is an MR company LLC incorporated in Dubai and having a place of business in India. So their shareholding structure is Hinduja Company Limited, Indian company is holding 26%, another Vaishali Company Limited, which is an Indian company, is holding 25%, and the remaining is held by the citizens of Dubai. So now, do they have to follow only Chapter 22 or the entire Companies Act? So entire Companies Act, because it is deemed as an Indian company with for the limited purpose of their business transactions in India. That's all. So this is what is this definition of this point which he is asking it. Then just as a small summary, since we have got another 5 minutes, we'll just complete this, what are all these 4 points to see whether whatever the way it can help. There are 4 documents that a foreign company will have to file: FC1, FC2, FC3 and FC4. FC1 is about intimation of principal place of business. That is, once you have become a foreign company, then from the time you have become a foreign company, within 30 days of establishing business in India, they have to file FC1. With whom do they file? They will file with, a foreign company will file, but they file with whom? ROC. Which ROC? ROC having jurisdiction in Delhi, because normally ROCs will have jurisdiction in the state which you are incorporated, but these are incorporated outside India. So all these companies, they file their documents with ROC, who is having jurisdiction over Delhi. And then any changes, any alterations in the foreign company documents and all, whether in your character and all that, you have to file FC2 with that. And FC3 is an annual accounts, so which you will have to file. And the list of places, other places other than the principal place, that is if you open any branches and all that, then you got to file FC3. And FC4 is your annual return. So annual return and annual accounts, don't get confused. FC3 is for annual accounts and FC4 is for annual return. So these are the 4 documents that we have to file in it. Maybe if time permits, we can get into what is the time limit, that 60 days and all that, 6 months and all that, but now we are up with the time. No point in simply hurrying and discussing. So let's stop at this point, and remaining points I will try to make a video and upload in the YouTube and all that. You can have a look at it, because the time allotted only for till today. So the remaining ones I will upload and I will confirm it to you. You can watch it at your comfort and all that. So let's stop this class at this point of time, and the remaining ones we will, whenever are in the topics, wherever you felt there is a need to discuss further and all, just let me know. We'll make a video and upload and confirm it to you. So thank you all for having the patience and listening, and whenever I upload the remaining ones, I will be in touch with one of you and you can get the knowledge of it. So let's wind up the class here. Thank you all.